All right, cool. I guess we start the first time we're doing an actual attempt at a podcast thing on stream. Yay.
Yep.
Instead of just being like, man, that was a good conversation we had. Let's clip it. We're actually trying to podcast.
Or like, God, Jinx, we've been having such a good conversation for the past 2 hours. Maybe we really need to do that podcast thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to do like our your JinJinx and I'm Tuner?
So, Zhongli just got buffed, but how good are his buffs looking in 1.3? Well, I'm JinJinx.
And I'm Tuner.
And we're some fuckers on YouTube and Twitch who talk about video games for a living. Alright, cool.
Yeah.
Alright, thank you for the prime. Yeah,
Cringe, bro. We've been doing that for fucking 2.5 years.
I feel like the people who went around for the Monster Hunter stuff, though, aren't familiar with it, which is why it might be more cringe. Yeah. Because, like, they're not used to, like, that. For those of you who weren't with us for the Monster Hunter stuff, that was the setup of every video. Yeah. Was, like, hook question. But what is the answer to hook question? Well, I'm JinJinx, and I'm Tuner, and
we're the Monster Hunter math guys.
And then we talk about the stuff, like, I used to do... Back when we were young, when the channel was younger, I used to try to do more like the hook style intro because we were still building a fan base. But now we just fucking have one.
They want us to stop and do it. No, they want us to stop. They want us to stop and do it right. Okay, so you just do it. Remember, you just do it because it sounds right to me, and I can go to your pace. So just you just do it.
What are we gonna say? The Genshin Impact map?
No, we'll just do the Monster Hunter one.
Okay, cool.
So our old intro used to be.
So it'd be something like, okay, so it's like, so Mihoyo just put out official patch notes talking about the buffs Zhongli's gonna get in the 1.3 beta test. But how good are these buffs looking, and will they actually change our opinions on Zhongli? Well, I'm JinJinx.
And I'm Tuner.
And we're the Monster Hunter math guys. And that's how it would normally go in the old videos.
Yeah, that's how it
would
go.
But, you know, now that we have an audience, I'm like, fuck the hook, I'm just gonna talk about stuff. We basically replaced that with like the funny intro clips we put at the beginning of videos.
Yeah, 4 out of 10. Jinx hesitated because he wanted to try to keep pace with me.
Yeah, and it's weird because we have like the almost 1 second audio delay in Discord, so it sounds off to my ear that you're 1 second behind me, even though on your side it's like it's in sync, right?
And that's why I said you basically just have to like say it, not listen to me at all, and just say it, and I know the cadence of it, and I can just follow you in time.
Thank you. I hate the hook. Lol.
True.
Fair.
True. Okay. Anyways, so yeah, they posted something to Twitter today. Saying that, hey, we got some feedback and we're gonna do some internal testing in the 1.3 beta and try out some changes.
My beta invite, Mihoyo?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I actually have no idea how you even get into betas. Like, do you have to apply or something?
I don't know. I think Tectone's in it or something, but I'm just like, God, if they actually let us look at it, we.
Yeah.
You can apply on their Discord. Yeah, their Discord that's full 100% of the time. Oh my god. It's literally full, dude. It's like 720,000 people in it. But, oh well.
Lol. Alright, anyway, to all travelers, recently we have received a lot of questions and feedback regarding Zhongli. We understand the love that everyone has given Zhongli and the rapt attention being paid to any future changes to him. As such, we apologize for the tardiness of this announcement concerning said adjustments. We have organized and summarized player feedback numbering in the tens of thousands during this time, in-game and out of it. Through this, we have discovered that your feedback has focused on Zhongli's strength in practical combat, the finer points of his ability usage, the geo-construct system, and so on. After analyzing the in-game data and engaging in many discussions, we have decided on an initial round of adjustments. These adjustments will be available to travelers participating in the 1.3 beta test version. The current adjustments are as follows cover 4 aspects: enhancing Zhongli's talents, optimizing the controls and mechanics of his abilities, improving the mechanics of his geo-resonance mechanics, and adjusting his shield. That's kind of the big one. We will continue to observe the performance of these adjustments during the upcoming 1.3 beta test, and we will pay attention to the feedback of testers. We hope that these adjustments will be able to appreciably improve everyone's experience. We will also give an update as to our final adjustments when said changes officially go live. So I guess real quick, just covering those things. Enhancing Zhongli's talents. Okay, cool. He does need some buffs on that and everything. Optimizing the controls mechanics of his abilities also would be useful, but really the shield increase is kind of the big one. I've said it before on stream, and I've said it a lot in voice chats and just various things that, like, in my opinion, Zhongli's damage doesn't necessarily need buffing because that's not really what he should be good at. What he needs to have be better is his like shielding and utility role. Because we already have Ning and Geo MC if we want high base damage Geo characters. He shouldn't be outdoing them in that, but what he needs is better utility.
Right, and that's kind of what I was talking about. I was talking about that in an Envy stream, actually. I was saying, you know, we have basically 4 Geo carries and no Geo supports at this point.
Yeah, well, Geo MC is the closest we have to that, but even then it's like quote-unquote support, right?
Like she does
pop crit rate, she's a good energy battery, but like we don't really have any true utility characters in the Geo group. Geo characters right now.
Yeah, you could.
Like everyone's just a different form of damage in a different way with a splash of utility.
No, Noelle is not a support. For anybody who thinks that, Noelle is not a support. She makes a shield, but that doesn't mean she's a support.
It's incredibly high cooldown and not really that strong without investment. Noelle is a carry who also happens to shield and heal while she's doing her carry thing. Ningguang is a high burst damage support character who happens to give a tiny bit of like buffing and projectile blocking while doing really high single target base damage. Geo MC is basically a Geo battery that also just happens to have very high skill damage at base, between her E spam and her ult having decent damage, and she also gives 10% crit rate, which is nice, but we don't really have any true utility picks, you know?
Right. Yeah, we don't have like a Bennett, we don't have a Xingqiu, we don't
I mean, like, if you compare it to like the Anemo characters, who are like the closest comparison you can really make to Geo, right? Because they're like, you know, they can buff other elements, they kind of act as more of a supporting role. You can run double Anemo for really powerful combos, like you can run double Geo for powerful combos. Like, if you compare it to Anemo, every Anemo character has very different utility that can make them valuable. Yeah, Venti's obviously the best damage dealer, but Sucrose can do EM sharing. On top of that, her ult has better synergies with other comps because a lot of units can't hit things in Venti ult. Jean provides healing, she provides full damage, she provides hit stun chains, she provides healing, most importantly. And Nemo MC has a lot of really powerful constellations, and also her ult is great at grouping up large groups of enemies in the Abyss. It's the next best one after Venti's for that.
Right.
So they all have these different utilities they can provide that can make them work better for your playstyle or your team comps.
And just to go...
Geo kind of lacks that. It's just like, Geo's like, we provide this tiny bit of utility, but really, what kind of damage are you going for?
Right.
Single target, you run Ningguang. Carry damage, you run Noelle. You want a bit more AoE damage, you run Geo MC. Like, Zhongli, tankiness with a good ult, but like kind of a shit E, right? It's like, they don't provide much utility by comparison. Crystallize is criminally weak in this game, so the shields you get aren't even that good from it. So like, yeah, it's like,
okay,
I think they need more utility in the Geo cast.
Let's preface this by saying, you good with me interrupting you mid whatever if you're
So for those of you who will be watching this on YouTube or who are new to the stream, just so you know, Tuna and I have an explicit agreement where I consent to him interrupting me anytime he needs to, because I read about ADHD and bipolar, and so I ramble really, really hard and will continue talking forever unless someone tells me to shut the fuck up. He has explicit consent from me to tell me to shut the fuck up anytime, and he's not being rude when he does it.
Okay.
It's part of our dynamic.
So what I was going to say is, like, to even go in further than that, you know, you look at a character like Jean, who is a Venerer, a healer, a CC'er, a, you know, like...
Hit stun chainer.
Stun chain, you can...
Her E is fantastic for continuing hit stun chains.
Super burst on her E.
Yeah.
You know, like, and then you can look at Geo MC, which I haven't, or Anemo MC, which I personally haven't used, but I know Envy uses Anemo MC to great effect. You know,
Anemo MC has fantastic constellations that are all free. Anemo MC is the best resistance shredder in the game because C6 is basically you get another Venera that's 50% strong on top of your Venera. And again, Anemo MC has the second best grouping ult for Abyss floors in the game next to Venti. If you're doing those like 20 to 30 enemy speed clears of like Abyss 12-1 or something like that, she's the second best unit next to Venti for grouping up a bunch of targets into a single spot to spam AoE damage on.
Right.
Like Sucrose is okay, but her range isn't as good, so units already have to be fairly close for it to group them, which doesn't really work on those kinds of big abyss floors. Anemo MC can like try to get everyone into a line and then just yeet a tornado down the line of enemies and it'll suck them all into like a corner.
Suck.
Diluc's also good because he does it kind of in an inverse way where he yeets everything into a line in front of him because of the knockback. So yeah,
Right.
like Diluc's probably third best grouper.
You know, and when we look at Zhongli, there's lots of indicators that he was going to do things that he doesn't do now.
Yep, and he was going to have utilities he doesn't have now, which would be nice, because, like I said, I don't really think Zhongli needs to do more damage. It's just he needs better utility to compensate for his lack of damage compared to other damage-heavy options.
Right. Now, obviously, beta stuff is beta stuff, but,
Yep.
you know, his ult was like a minimum of 6 seconds right off the box, so, like, huh. Gamer, thank you for the 100 bits, man. Appreciate you. I don't know how much we're gonna try to call out stuff since this is gonna be like a podcast stuff, but I'll try to call out like the money related stuff. So appreciate you guys.
Money related stuff we should call out, but otherwise. But yeah, okay. So anyway, moving forward, first adjustments.
So if I need to zoom this out a little bit, I don't know. I figured it'd look better if it was zoomed in for the video.
Yeah, this is fine.
Okay.
This is fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks fine. Okay. But yeah, so adjustments to passive talent dominance of Earth. So original effects. Original effect is that, so this is Ascension 4 talent, by the way. Original effect is that your ult gets 30% scaling for max HP. Now, it's also increasing his normal charge and plunge attack damage by 1.39% of his max HP. I assume from the wording, this is similar to Crescent Pike in that it's a flat damage increase per hit. So he essentially gets a natural HP scaling Crescent Pike input. We can see though from this that it's not an extra damage instance like Crescent Pike is. It's just adding flat damage per hit.
Right.
Which is good. I really don't think his carry power needs more power. He's actually already on the high end of physical carry output with Crescent Pike in the game anyway, and I really don't think he needs to be a carry. He's clearly built to be a burst support, but whatever, it's nice. I know a lot of people are running him as a carry because we did calc it and he is decent at it, but I really don't think that should be his role, you know, from a design standpoint. But
no, and
either way,
I figure at some point we'll talk about what you would consider a good buff and what I would consider, but just kind of talk about
but we'll go over all the buffs first before that. So yeah, I mean, it's not bad, but he does more damage with that, and it's good, but I don't think he needs more carry power. I think that he needs more utility. But anyway, Stone, Steel, Resonance, and Holding Mode damage of Dominus Lapidus will be increased by 1.9% of max HP. This is nice because his E is criminally weak. Like, his E is criminally weak, and on an HP Zhongli build set up for shield power, this will probably more than double the damage it's outputting. Right. Because of how low his effective attack gets when you run an HP stack on him. So we're looking at probably somewhere close to maybe potentially double the damage on it, which is nice, because that helps, because his E damage is garbage. But it doesn't state anything about energy changes, and that's kind of more of his issue. That's
100% my concern. Like I said, we already have basically four Geo carries. They all serve to be a Geo carry. We need more Geo-enabling supports.
Yeah, because right now it's just Geo MC.
Yeah.
Noelle can't enable shit because she can't generate energy. You build a team to enable Noelle instead. Ning, even with Constellation 2 Constellation 2 is reliant on your construct breaking, which isn't always a reliable thing depending on the content you're playing against.
Frags, it's not even
Contu with Sac Frag, she's not a battery. She is a burst damage support, right? Like her single target base damage on EQ is insanely high, and that's what she's good at. So like, I don't know, like, more damage is nice, but I really would have liked to see him be a more consistent battery. Because the inconsistency of it right now is the bigger issue. Because even if it's a relatively low energy gain at like 1 per 4 seconds or something, at least it's consistent, so you can account for that in the ER you're stacking in your teams, in the way you're building your comps, and how much battery requirement you need. But since it's inconsistent, it's just fucking up in the air if you're going to actually get your ults when you want them or not.
Right.
Which I'm not a fan of. So, I mean, it's nice that it does more damage. That's good. It's very clear they're kind of trying to lean Zhongli towards being an HP shield support with a little extra oomph. Yeah. Because these are all HP scaling, right? So.
Well, and then even Geo MC, has such high base values.
Yeah,
it was
especially because she gets
Cyclove?
free cons.
Was it Cyclove or Doper that was using GeoMC as their
Cyclove.
main? Yeah, Cyclove was using their GeoMC as their main carry for a long time just because they didn't get any good rolls. So
Yeah, they didn't have any good carry rolls, and so they just, each rock with their full carry sets hitting like 8 to 9k crit. It's not bad for a 6-second cooldown that also gens a crap load of energy. And then also that's being doubled if you can play in a way to make the constructs get destroyed by enemy attacks. So.
Okay. Let me go. Still has the 33% damage on the ult. It would be weird if they took it away, but Dive, thank you for the 18 months. Welcome back. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah.
This is a very important
So this
one
I like.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one I like.
So the original
effects.
effect was causes nearby geo energy to explode, causing the following effects: creates a shield of jade. The shield's damage absorption scales based on Zhongli's max HP and has 250 geo damage absorption. This is a very weird niche thing that doesn't really get used.
There's so few geo damage sources out from enemies in this game.
Like,
even the geo enemies mostly do physical damage against you.
So thank you for the prime. Thank you. Deals AoE geo damage, and if they're nearby targets with the geo element, it will drain a large amount of geo element from a maximum of 2 such targets. This effect does not cause damage.
I still don't know what the so that's just the shield break effect on it and the construct damage effect on it, right?
Right.
When there's a rock lava churl and has the geo shield.
Yeah, like
there's geo constructs. It just causes an instance of large break damage.
Right. Yeah.
Like
if you went up to the geo slimes near the geo domain,
that one magic crystal spot.
Yeah, you could basically just insta pop their shields with the
because it'll do like a normal geo instance break damage, but then it'll also like have this second instance when you're sucking the geo element from them and it breaks their shield. And like that's neat. It's a useful counter mechanic for lava churls and stuff like that, but it's just so niche.
Yeah. The new effect is going to be if the maximum number of stone steals has not been yet
just happy.
yet reached, it will create a stone steel. Which I actually think this is good.
Really nice change.
It makes his C1 better. Because as
makes
you're
his C1 better.
Go ahead.
So yeah.
Okay.
Well, like the big thing about this is because you can consolidate the creation of your first stone steel with your initial cast time. Yeah.
Jinx, I'm sorry. Bam Talks, thank you for the 5 subs, man. Thank you. That's very big.
Oh, thank you so much for the 5
man.
subs. Yeah.
Congratulations.
But yeah, so like from like a team DPS standpoint, this is actually a pretty significant change because one of the issues Zhongli had before, as I kind of briefly mentioned in the last video, is that he has cast time issues. This doesn't seem to be necessarily increasing his actual E cast time, but it does consolidate, which is important. Because if you wanted to actually get the output out of Zhongli, you have to make sure there's a stone steel on your targets first before you use your shard shield. So you have to switch to Zhongli, pop an E, auto once or twice while you're waiting for the switch cooldown, switch back off of him, and that's burning like 1 second of field time just to pop the stone steel, and then 3 seconds later you need to be popping back to Zhongli to pop his shield if you want to have the stone steel still doing DPS as well. And then you pop that's 2 second cast time, pop back off. He's already eaten 3 seconds of cast time, and then when he pops his ult, it's like another 2 seconds or so, right? Before you can switch. So like it changes him from having this every 12 seconds rotation of 5 seconds to 4 seconds, which is a fairly significant deal on a lot of team comps, because 1 second of increased field time can be significant, especially when you have comps that focus on overlapping transferable damage, because you're saving a second of uptime for like Jingcho ult, Chongyun E, and Bennett ult all at the same time with that 1 second consolidation. That's actually a fairly big deal considering when you take that into account of like the percentage of the total duration of those abilities, right? So like this is a nice change. It makes it's a nice quality of life change that makes him work better with those kinds of overlapping transferable comps.
Right. And what I was saying, I think it makes C1 really good because like now you will basically always have a pillar up. Obviously they have a timer on them and one's going to get destroyed, but theoretically, as long as they're not being destroyed via physical means by an enemy hitting them or something, which again, going on to that, why the hell can this thing be destroyed? It looks like the most sturdy object in the game. I digress. That means when you create one, then you create the other, there should be a window of opportunity for you to create the second one without losing the first one again. Which, like, currently his C1 seemed ultimately useless. Like, you can put 2 on the field. It doesn't make the energy recharge better. They can't overlap, so they don't increase the damage. What was the point?
It just makes the area bigger, but it also delays your shield if you don't have C2.
Right, exactly.
Which, you know, is what, like...
Bam
At
Talks,
the end
thank you
of
for
the
the
day,
additional 5 stars.
Zhongli should be the premier shield support in the game, and he's not. Like, that's my biggest issue with Zhongli. Yeah, his damage is low, but I don't think it should be high, right?
Right.
He's not supposed to be Venti. He's not supposed to be, like, Jingcho. He's not supposed to be, like, all these, like, really high burst damage supports. He's not supposed to be, like, a C6 Fischl. He's supposed to be this tanky enabler who enables your team to tank more. And my biggest issues have always been that without C2 and without C3 and without a level 90 Zhongli with plus 20 sets, he doesn't tank enough. And, like, this lets you consolidate some of the field time he's taking to get his full combo out, which does help him in that regard. Because now you can just spam his charge E every time it's off cooldown every 12 seconds instead of having to do place a stone steel, wait 4 seconds, come back, pop your E, come back 12 seconds later, pop another stone steel, come back, pop your E again when you don't have C2 to just give you free shields when you ult. Right. And, like, without you placing stone steel, even though the energy gen is inconsistent, he kind of needs his stone steel to be out to have his ult have high uptime unless you're running double geo for him.
What I'm not happy about, just looking at this, this is obviously beta, but I mean, you can still see that they created this pillar and there's no energy being created. I don't know if that means that do they not care that he doesn't create energy consistently? I don't know.
I don't know. Like, I don't care if it's a low gen amount, but consistent energy creation is better because at least you can build for that, right? You can build for what the consistent low energy is. Like, you know how on Zhongli, you generally always run an energy recharge sands on her because you know that her Guaba's self-energy gen is really low for her. But at least we consistently know it's low. When it's as RNG as this, sometimes ER will be wasted, sometimes it'll be good, etc., etc. Like, it's hard to build effective comps effectively when you have this gotcha energy mechanic in there.
Hey Lewis, thank you for your 10 bits. No, we're doing something right now. I'm sorry, man. We're not gonna answer random questions at this point.
Yeah, we won't really be answering questions until we're done going through everything. Okay. But yeah, creates a shield of Jade.
Sorry, there you go.
But yeah, so like the charge version creates a shield of Jade. Damage absorption is based on max HP and has 150% physical and elemental damage absorption.
This is the new one.
This is the change I wanted to see.
This is the new one.
Yeah. This is the change I wanted to see, which is make his shield stronger.
Right.
Because his shield isn't strong enough. Like, that's really what it comes down to, is without insanely heavy investment, his shield just isn't strong
And
enough.
honestly, we were kind of wondering if this wasn't a hidden mechanic anyways.
And I tested it, and it wasn't.
Okay, you actually tested it and 100% confirmed there was no hidden...
100% confirmed for Talent 6. I don't have C3, and I'm not going to spend the money to get him C3, so it's possible. So, like, yeah, it's one of those things where I could probably get, like, one of, like, the whale theory crafters I know to test stuff for me, but regardless, the point is at the thing we're concerned about, which is, you know, not Leviathan level investment for him, so 60 out of 70, plus 16 HB sets, talent level 6, that's as high as we can reasonably get him, right? For like a decent investment support units. Like, it was within 4 to 7 damage off of the sheet HP on every test I did for it.
Yeah. Deals AoE damage.
Which is, you know, rounding errors, basically. But it's that lower margin, so. If
they're nearby targets of the geo element, it'll change the large amount.
So same thing.
And then the resistance. This is super important as well, because
that's
this was...
important, because holy shit, I ran Zhongli for 10 days, goddamn straight, through Abyss, through domains, through my daily farming. I ran him exclusively on my teams for 10 days. I have gotten knocked out of my fucking shield charge so many times.
Yeah. I wonder...
Because 2 seconds is a long cast time.
It says
like,
greatly...
It's a long cast time.
It says greatly increases. I wonder how greatly it is increased. Like, could you
probably
tank
perfect
a hammer?
hyper armor. Probably. It probably means perfect hyper armor because it was already decently high. Like against light hits, you wouldn't get interrupted, but like 2 seconds is a long cast time, guys, because like a lot of enemy attacks, like you see this wind up for this hit, right? That's under 2 seconds. So even if you dodge a hit from a target and try to pop your shield, they can still hit you before it goes off right now. Right. With the current cast.
This is a really long animation for this fight usually.
Attacks. Yeah.
The only longer ones I can think of are like the wind up for the Animo Boxer, and like if you consider the running charge of the Thunder Fatui.
A wind up, yeah.
If you consider him starting to run as the beginning of his animation.
Yeah, and then I guess also like my Troll's charge attacks, like the ones that are obviously designed to be like, here I come. Oh god, Lord, I'm coming. You better get ready. I'm about to hit you. Let's go. And then they hit you. Like outside of those insane ones, for like a standard attack, this is a fairly long wind up.
Yeah, what we would consider those in like Monster Hunter, in Monster Hunter terms, for any of those who've seen it, you know, people would talk about needing to bring shield up for Teostra's Nova because it's this huge damage instance that needs shield up. It's like, but like. A majority, if not every single attack that needs shield up in Monster Hunter,
you can just dodge it.
You there's so much of an indication that you should be getting the hell out of the way that like you shouldn't ever be caught in a position where you are in trouble.
Like those kinds of attacks are designed to have such big wind up, you can just get the fuck out of the way. Like that's the intentional mechanic behind that, and guard up's more of a comfort thing to not have to get out of the way. Right. You just block it instead. But yeah. So it's like 2 seconds is a really long cast time, guys, especially when it doesn't have iframes.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of ults have 2 second cast times, but they're pure iframes, so you actually use them to dodge sometimes.
All right. Then regarding the geomechanics. Okay, this is the most interesting thing for me, personally.
Yep. Because you are a Geo comp main.
Right. So adjusting to the Geo Resonance Enduring Rock. The original effect was just increases the resistance to interruption when protected by a shield, increases attack damage by 15%. This is just overall damage increased by 15%.
Yeah.
Now it will be increasing shield strength by 15%. Additionally, characters protected by a shield will have the following special characteristics. Damage dealt increased by 15, so you're still maintaining the 15. Dealing damage to enemies will decrease their geo resistance.
Attack there, does it also increase transformative reaction damage? Because like they drop the attack damage and just say damage dealt, so that'll be a thing I want to test when this goes live.
Yeah, we'll have to test it with like Shatter. It's about the only thing that Geo actually gets.
True, but
now it says dealing damage to enemies will decrease their geo resistance. Now I'm wondering if it's dealing damage or if it's dealing geo damage.
It just says damage.
It just says damage.
I would assume any.
But we'll obviously have to
instance?
test that.
Yeah, that'll have to be tested. But
because
this is really nice because Geo needs more multipliers.
Well, what I'm saying is like, okay, so if I pop a shield on a guy and have 2 Geo units, like if I have Zhong and Geo MC, like a quote unquote supports for a Bennett, and then I deal damage with Bennett, is it still gonna reduce their Geo resistance?
Probably.
So that's
based
what I want
on the wording, I would say yes, but again, we'd have to test it. But based on the wording, my answer would be yes. This is really nice for Geo units because like people always wonder why like I place Geo units so low in tier list generally speaking, and that's because when you're looking at like DPS outputs and not necessarily, and like again, Geo units don't provide a lot of utility. Crystallize is really weak. Like Crystallize, the HP on Crystallize shields is incredibly low even with high levels in EM. When you're like, and like Petra set is basically just a worse Vanera set, and Vanera units do more damage because swirls. And because VV is much better than Vanera set is much better than Petra. But like the reason I place them so low is because Geo is supposed to be the tanky element, so they are making a damage trade-off to give you the ability to generate shields on demand. Right? So like Ningguang does incredible single target base burst damage, but she can't make it any higher. You can't Vanera it to shred resistance. Now we can shred half the resistance that Vanera Shred gives, which is still good. There are very few mechanics to buff Geo damage outside of Ningguang's Ascension 4. And like on top of that, their reactions create shields instead of doing additional damage. So yeah, Ningguang has incredible single target burst damage at base, but it's not gonna compare to a Mona or Child Vaporize ult. It's not gonna compare to a Diluc combo with a Xingqiu vaporizing. It's not gonna compare to on a large target like Diluc or Bennett or Klee with C6 Fischl doing an overload spam, right? Like it's just not going to compare anywhere close to the damage because you can't enhance it further. And this is nice because it gives us an extra mechanic to increase geo damage because the gap was already kind of too big. Right. So like I don't think Geo should never in a balanced game be able to have the same DPS potential as other comps because they're trading damage for shields, but the trade-off is too big right now.
Right.
In my opinion.
Yeah. Especially in a game that is focused so heavily on damage at its hardest content.
And especially because the reality is that right now, if you could theoretically replace a healer unit with a Geo's tankiness support unit, and that was sufficient, then the increase in base damage they get versus other healer options who generally have lower damage to compensate for having healing might be worth it. But they're not tanky enough. Crystallize can't tank full hits, so you still take chip damage and will die from attrition. Zhongli's shield can't tank enough hits unless you are incredibly good at dodging already. At which point you could realistically run like Jingcho or something instead as a solo heal. Like he doesn't have enough tankiness to replace a healer. And the healers in this game already have enough healing for the most part and mitigation that they are sufficient as the solo tanking option in a comp. So like at that point, he's replacing a DPS option for a little extra comfiness but drops in DPS, and that's questionably useful in this game.
Right. In
my opinion, at least. But
no, yeah. All right, next one, Geo Shield balance adjustments. I wish this was all shields, or at least crystallized shields. But
yeah,
Geo Shields are maybe the wording, maybe it's just using a different wording, and maybe it's Geo created shields. I'm hoping. I'm hoping. It's
specifically Geo type shields because it's changing. Because the thing is, crystallized shields also specifically have 250% absorption against the elements of the crystallized shield.
Anyway, so Geo shields are adjusted from having 250% Geo damage absorption to having 150% physical damage and elemental damage absorption. So instead of just 251 Geo, it's 150 to everything.
In other words, Zhongli shield's 50% stronger now than it used to be. Which is good.
Effects include
That's really good.
Geo Shield created by Zhongli, Geo Shield convected by Noel, and Geo Shield created when picking up Geo Crystals dropped by the Geo Bishop Matchlings, which is
ironically
useless.
Though, I think this is actually a bigger buff to Noel than Zhongli, but either way, it's still a buff to Zhongli.
Yeah. No, I'm actually really excited about that, obviously.
Yeah. This is nice. I still am not sold it's gonna be enough. Just because, again, like, 30k Zhongli T6 is hitting like what 7.5k HP, so this is bringing up to around 10k HP, maybe closer to 11 depending on your HP substats.
Right.
That's still not even soaking 2 hits in late Abyss.
Yeah, I mean at least it gets you the little guy hits, which is nice.
It's one of those things where like with Zhongli, right, people, especially like when you have cons 2 and cons 3, so your shields are significantly stronger and you don't have to cast them as often because your ult creates a shield for you. Mm-hmm. So you have like about twice as much potentially uptime on your shield.
Oh, by the way,
and
Jinx,
your shields are tanking a lot more hits.
I mean, keep in mind that most people who are running Zhongli tend to try to run Bolide, so
that doesn't. Oh, you mean like on the carries?
Like when they're running Zhongli as a carry, they're running him with a Bolide, and then also the Geo Resonance. Their Geo Resonance is also giving 15, so it's actually an additional 50 if you have 2 Geo units and a Bolide set.
Yeah, but only on the character with a Bolide set.
Right.
I don't think a lot of people know this, but Bolide only applies to the character with the Bolide set.
Yeah. No,
so
I mean,
running
for
2-piece
sure.
Bolide on Zhongli, I'm just making sure people who are watching this know this. It's been tested. If Zhongli has a 2-piece Bolide set, the only person who gets more shield HP is Zhongli when he's on field. If you switch to anyone else, they don't get the set.
Yeah,
it's not useful as a support set.
I'll actually show. I think my. No, he doesn't. Give me a second. Let me throw in a random thing for you here. There we go. So if you look at the details here, you can see there's the powerful shield, 0%. If you look at Chong, powerful shield 35%. It's basically like a character specific bonus that says you have a 35% stronger shield. For those of you who don't know what that looks like.
Yeah. So yeah,
That's a really
so
good
like
flipper.
Bowlight doesn't like if Diona runs a 2-piece Bowlight, the only person whose shield is stronger is when Diona is on the field, not when any of your other characters have her shield but are on field. Which is important to know because I know a lot of people, when Diona came out and when Zhongli came out, wanted to run a 2-piece Bowlight on him to make him a better shield support, but it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. But yeah.
Let's see.
Also, just a thing I noticed in chat, someone was saying that with changes, Zhongli is going to be the strongest physical DPS. That's not necessarily true. Because yes, for 4-star weapons, he's going to be the top of the pack with this bonus. But the problem is that Crescent Pike is a 4-star, and the characters like Razor, Physical Kuching, these kinds of like physical carry characters also have access to 5-star weapons.
Right.
So like when you start accounting for like, you know, a Razor with Skyward Pride or with Wolf Gravestone, they start to outdo the Crescent Pike Zhongli, but losing Crescent Pike drops his motion value per second by almost 60%. So even if he ran Skyward Spine, he's not going to compete nearly as much. But because Crescent Pike is the cap for his physical DPS output, these characters that can run 5-stars will start outdoing him if they have the 5-stars.
For those of you who have played Monster Hunter, the way Crescent Pike works is a lot like an elemental weapon. It's not a 20% increase in his damage, like he's just doing 20% more damage. It's adding a flat bonus onto his attack, in the same way that an elemental weapon in Monster Hunter has a flat bonus element
per hit.
So
it's one of those things where like when you basically all you're really doing is making him have extra free damage instances of 20 motion value per hit. And even just that on his kick cancel combo, where you do like the full combo and you start kicking your spear and you short hop to cancel it and start another combo. Compared to using any other weapon on Zhongli, that combo has almost 60% more damage just because of the increase in the basically in the like the talent damage percentage, the damage percentage per second, what we call motion value per second, coming from different games. And the thing is, unless Skyward Spine or unless what's the other one called? Vortex Vanquisher? I think?
Vortex Vanquisher.
Unless that makes him do 60% more damage on his basic attacks, it's worse than Crescent Pike for basic attacks. Now, those are better for his skill damage, obviously. That's why we still run things like Vortex Vanquisher, Skyward Spine, or whatnot if we have the option for like support Zhongli. And it's arguably still better for carry Zhongli because depending on your team comp, you don't spend that much time attacking sometimes. Like some team comps basically spend no time just spamming out combos, they're just spamming out abilities. But like the problem with that's why I still consider Zhongling to be a much worse, or not much worse, but like definitely a lower tier physical carry compared to Razor, even though they do similar DPS for physical, because Razor can use 5-star weapons. And that'll just multiply his damage even more. Razor also gets better team comps because he's electro type, so he can run physical teams and he's already half of Superconduct. Zhongling has a much scuffier time trying to make like Superconduct teams work. But regardless, the point is that Crescent Pike Zhongli is strong, but competitive options against him with 5-stars are still gonna beat him. And that's kind of the issue, is that Crescent Pike is like the cap for his physical damage, but other characters will be getting close to his physical output with 4-stars and then start beating him with 5-star weapons, especially with refinements. Right. So like, yeah.
So they go on to say, this round of adjustments is not merely intended to improve the experience of playing Zhongli alone. We also hope to better convey the shield and Geo playstyles that are closely associated with him. Not only for his sake, but also to improve the experience of travelers who have been delving into the strategy layer of this game. Jinx. It is precisely because these changes go further than pure adjustments to a character. Guys, do I need to turn off notifications or the alerts so you can't spam emotes?
Lol, so many no Patarus.
They're gone. All right. It's precisely because of these changes we go further than pure adjustments to a character alone that we have taken the utmost care. We hope to be able to give travelers a more detailed solution as opposed to hastily throwing out general direction of adjustments.
I do like that. I would rather them err on the side of caution with buffs, especially because, you know, legally they can't nerf.
Right.
So, like, because in China, I think it's in China, is it China and Japan? I don't remember. People have told us about it, but apparently it's illegal to nerf characters in those countries because people paid money for them. So.
Right.
Or something along those lines. Either way, the point is they can't nerf. So, like, it's good that they're leaning in the air of caution with buffing. I'm still not convinced that this isn't going to make him an incredibly expensive unit to act as a shield unit, and I would rather they reduce his E cast time, because honestly, that's one of the big killers of him for me, is that his E takes 2 seconds to cast, and it's really bad. But either way, these are in the right direction. I would still prefer for there to be a bit more utility in his kits.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of these buffs are just making his shield's 50% better, Geo Resonance is a little bit better, and he deals a little bit more damage, which is good, but like, I don't think he needs to deal more damage. The reason why I bring up how low damage he brings so much is because the utility he brings isn't enough to justify his lower damage.
Yeah, we want to stress that when we were doing our testing, we saw a lot of comments that were saying stuff like, "Oh, you just wanted him to be a physical carry. That's why you're mad. He's not good physical carry, and you just wanted to be." We don't want him to be another damage dealer. As I've said several times, we need more Geo supports. We need more Geo supports that enable Geo carries.
Also, the reason why in that initial stream I was testing so much of his combo stuff is because that requires testing. I have to get frame counts to understand how strong his basic attacks are. It takes me less than 5 minutes to calculate his support damage output, because I don't have to frame count that.
Yep.
I just have to go, what's the cooldown? Can he do it off cooldown? What is the damage output for that cooldown? Cool. Divide it by that for DPS. Like, it's super easy to do those kinds of basic DPS calcs. Now you have to account for cast times and full team comp rotation calculations and shit. But the point is I already had a good idea of how low his damage was just from seeing his stats. So, like, I didn't need to spend much time calculating that, but you do have to frame count combos to understand what the DPS on those look like.
Sure. No, sure. I totally said thank you very much for the sub, man. I'm sorry if you didn't hear it. I was saying it in the middle of Jinx talking, but thank you very much for the sub, man.
Yeah, thank you for the sub. All right, so I guess at this point we talk about what we think he probably needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've already mentioned quite a few things, so you go ahead.
Well, what I would like to see, honestly, would be if
like these are a step in the right direction. Yeah.
I mean, personally, I don't think we ever needed to buff his autos at all. I really don't think we did.
Seems completely unnecessary to me.
What I would have liked to have seen on Zhongli is whenever a pulse hits an enemy, it shreds their geo resist a little bit. Doesn't have to be a super amount.
That would be neat.
But like every time it hits them, because I mean you figure like, oh, they're being shaken, they're being shaken. If it did physical, if it did geo, I mean I would prefer it was geo, obviously as a Noel main, but physical would be, you know, more viable for everybody else.
Or it shreds defense. Or
too.
It has some kind of buffing mechanic, because it's not a good energy gen thing and it's not a good DPS thing, so what the fuck is it actually doing? Right.
Like, and people are talking about, well, it's in the resonance, but yeah, but like I can use Ning and get a damage amp from her shield as I run through it with Noelle and get the Geo Resonance to shred them. So like, damage. If honestly, this makes me want to use Ning more and Zhong less, because what is he providing, right?
Not to mention, it is so annoying crystallizing with his E because it's inconsistent with its application.
Right.
There will be times where I tried to run Zhongli as a Petra support, placed down a steal, and I waited over 6 seconds for a crystallized shield to pop.
Mm-hmm.
Because of how inconsistent its geo application is, because it's tied with its elemental it's tied with its energy application, as I understand. So like there are times where it's not like Ning, where on Ning I can literally switch to Ning, auto once, dash to pick up the shield, and immediately switch off, and I have Petra bonus, right?
Right.
Like his geo application is so scuffy, it feels like it's hard to run him as a Petra support too, without taking too much field time and making the Petra bonus not worth it.
You know, and honestly, I would like to see the size of it be bigger, because like,
yeah, the oh my god, it's so annoying keeping shit in that radius, dude. Like I mean, if you have Geo MC,
I'm
a Bennett simp. and I'm used to like juggling things inside of
Oh, it's
circles,
way
but
smaller
holy
it's
shit,
way smaller.
it's so much smaller. It's like half the radius.
You know, and especially if you're running a character like Noelle and Zhongli, or like even Ningguang and Zhongli, so that there's only one possible thing to resonate off of, you don't have a lot of range. And it's rather difficult to keep people in there while also keeping that thing alive. Because again, if you're too close and they accidentally swipe it, they'll break it. And then you got to go back and make another one, which is another 2 seconds of holding. And obviously now you're getting a shield, which is great, but it's still extra animation
also a 12-second cooldown.
Right.
On top of that, like it's like this does consolidate, but it's if you ever make a shield without cons too, like you're putting your steel on a 12-second cooldown.
Right.
And like people, and like even in the best case scenario where you can Venn diagram a bunch of geo constructs around something and start resonating it for multiple instances of damage, the cross section is so fucking tiny.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're breaking your constructs because they're surrounded by them and hitting them, which is actually good for GeoMC because you double your damage if they break.
Well, the problem is like, let's say you have a C1 Zhong and you're using GeoMC. Obviously now you are pretty much locked in because you can't run triple Geo. So now you're running Zhong and GeoMC. You can only use one of their meteors, because if you place more than one while Zhong has 2 pillars up, you're going to remove a pillar. And somebody said apparently
is that how it works? I haven't ever.
You can only have 3. You can only have 3.
Really?
Yeah.
So there is a hard limit of 3 any kind of constructs on the field at once.
With the exception of GeoMC's ult, which counts as 4 constructs, I think, but it doesn't add to the cap. Gotcha.
Interesting.
So
I did not know that because I haven't messed with Geo comps for Zhong that much.
Right. It's frustrating. Now, somebody mentioned in chat that maybe I was wrong, that like if you have 2 pillars up at the same time, it does double the damage. I guess I didn't notice that that's how that was working, but I don't know. Well, we'll have to test that out. I mean,
even if it does, we're talking tiny Venn diagram, right?
Right.
Like, the reality is, even against big enemies, when you're hitting them with your other abilities, your other teammates, they're using their E's, it's doing a little bit of knockback at least. Like, it's doing at least a little bit of knockback. So how long can they realistically stay in a tiny Venn diagram area of multiple damage instances?
That actually brings me to my next one. As we're talking about, this is shaking them. They are actually being physically shaken. I would love to see a little bit of stagger in there. Maybe not a super amount, because I mean, you're looking at the way that's in, if it's a really short stagger, think of like a Riven E, where it's like a...
At the very least, the first hit should stagger.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little tiny stagger, and if it's going to be small like this, at least it could keep them kind of in it a little bit. Zhongli supposed to be the king of CC, right? Well... give me a little bit of extra CC,
Hell, I just thought of this, but giving it a light suck effect might be nice too.
I feel like
that would give you some
a suck effect doesn't
utility.
Make sense in like a concept, because it's sound.
That's fair. That's
what I was saying. Stagger outwards would be.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
The ground underneath them is shaking. It's an earthquake. Oh god, let me get my footing. It's, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the defense shred
Something
and
like
the stagger would really work, because, they're losing their footing. They don't have sure footing anymore. Okay, well, their defenses are down. They don't have sure footing, so they're briefly being staggered a little bit while they get their shit together.
Yeah. And like I said, I really just feel like Zhongli needs more utility in his kit. That's why, a lot of people got baited on day 1 Zhongli because they removed the physical and, geo bonus that was apparently leaked about that, because that wasn't in the live version and they thought it was going to be, but something like that is something he probably needs.
Right.
He needs more utility in his kit, because we don't need him to do more damage. If you really want a high base burst damage geo support, you run Ningguang.
Right.
We don't need another higher damage option. What we need is different utility units in geo that justify running them as either, a coupling in the 2 geo comp or as a Petra support.
Right.
Because right now, the only Petra supports that make sense are either Ningguang or GeoMC. GeoMC because of the crit rate buff, and like higher AoE burst damage, and Ningguang because she dumps numbers onto things.
Yeah.
And also makes Petra shields on demand as a Petra support.
So what you're saying is GOMC is Sucrose and Ningguang is Venti?
Sort
of, not really. Okay.
The reason why the comparison isn't apt is because Venti, like I said, every single anima unit brings a different kind of utility. Venti brings an insane amount of utility along with damage.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
His Ascension 4 is the most broken Ascension 4 in the entire game. It funds him and any units with the same infusion type 15 fucking energy every 12 goddamn seconds.
Somebody just said Petra support, the Geo support does nothing for Geo DPS.
Yeah, that's just sad.
Which I also agree is just terribly stupid. What?
Yep.
Now granted, Animo supports do nothing for Animo DPS, but also I don't know. They're really strong on their own, I guess. But
yeah, they're strong on their own, and like they get better bonuses from 4 set because they get the 60% scroll damage increase.
Yeah.
And also, that's actually not even true. They do buff their own damage because Sucrose, everyone except for Jean, Sucrose, Animo, MC, and Venti all element infuse on their ults. So they are increasing their own damage with a Vanera set because they're making the off-type damage stronger.
Yeah,
on their ults, so they do actually buff their own damage that way.
You know, and and we were talking about when we were trying to figure out what set I should run for my GOMC. We decided on Petra, not necessarily because it was increasing Noelle's damage at all, but because Petra was going to increase either Kaeya or Xingqiu's damage, which is worth it. Don't get me wrong, but I still think it's funny that like a Petra support does nothing.
The Geo set doesn't. The Geo 4 set doesn't help Geo teams. Yeah, it's the only one where that's the case.
If it was just a flat defense, like instead of element, if it was just a defense shred, I think that'd be a step in the right direction.
Yeah, like I said, I just want to see more utility. Now, the consolidation of his E onto his charge E, like making a steal, is a good buff to utility, definitely.
Let me scroll down.
The increased 50% strength on his shield is also a good buff to his utility because it makes him a more potent shield support. I still don't think it's strong enough without heavy investments, so constellations on him, right? Like, I still don't think it's strong enough even with 50%, but it's at least better. But I would just like to see more utility out of his kit, because, like, what is his, like, for example, his Ascensions could be more modified. What does his Ascensions do? Ascension 2 gives you a basically useless passive against late game content, because, for those of you who don't know, I did test it, the Ascension 2 passive, where it gives you that 5% extra shield resistance, doesn't apply until after you get hit. So, the problem is, in late game content, shit's hitting you for, like, 4 to 7, 8k. Right? So, like, we're talking like 4 to 7, 8k, so you're at best eating 2 hits. So, at best, your first hit gets no bonus, and your second hit gets 5% shield strength.
Right.
And that's about it.
And by the time that
very
second
rare
hit
niche
hits you,
situations.
by the time that second hit hits you, you've probably broken his shield, so you only ever
and you're taking chip damage anyway, so all you've done is mitigate 5% of chip damage, essentially. Like, the reality is this, like, this will, and like with his shield being 50% stronger, it'll be a little bit better. But the problem is that late game content simply hits too hard, and every other tankiness option in the game gives you much more tankiness for the same investment that Zhongli does. Every healer in the game with a similar plus 16 like leveled up investment set, level 60 out of 70, gives you, generally speaking, enough healing for late abyss. It gives you enough ability to tank. It gives you enough ability to have that resistance and healing up against attrition and whatnot. And Zhongli doesn't provide that, while also doing at best comparable damage to them, but not being enough tankiness for your solo to be the solo tanky option in your team. And like, I don't feel like he needs more damage, which is what they did for his Ascension 4, is just give his other abilities more damage. He needs more utility.
I honestly, with the way that they're changing this now, I would like for them to change. I really one big change that I really want them to do is just change his Ascension stat to not be geo damage. I don't know.
Yeah, you can
but
HP
again,
do.
again, I'm still trying to push him towards being a support. If they really want, I don't know.
They really want him to be a physical carry.
They really want him to be a
change.
carry. I don't know. I think
I
don't
think
know.
that
I
might be
wonder-
more so though, because like I said, they were looking at the feedback, and it's possible that even though we don't think design-wise he should be a support, and we don't think he should be a carry design-wise, we think he should be more filling a support role.
Mhm.
It's very likely a large majority, because again, they're saying that they looked at like the data from tens of thousands of people and whatnot. It's very likely that the current populace is leaning towards playing him as a carry over a support.
Well, I know a lot of
Which is
people
why
want
they
to
put
play
this
him as
buff
a
in it.
carry
Yeah.
simply because
his
he's
combo
cool,
is so
and
cool.
he's
His combo is so
suave, and
cool.
he's attractive, and he's got a deep voice, and
His combo is so cool. So like I imagine a lot of people are playing him as more of a physical carry role than they are as a support role. And like numerically speaking, he's very competitive as a physical carry role, especially for like low investment, like free to play or low to pay players who want to run 4-star weapons because they can't afford to pull for 5-star weapons, right? So Crescent Pike is very good for a 4-star weapon. It only really starts to fall behind compared to other physical carries who have the 5-star weapons. So like,
which there are no other polearm physical carries that can run 5-star weapons right now.
Yeah, but I mean, like when comparing Fizz carriers, we're more comparing him to like Razor and Kachin.
Yeah, no,
basically.
I know. I just do think it's funny.
Like,
he's man. What the hell are you talking about? He's the top 2. He's the top 2 polearm carry right now.
Right. No, and like this change will make him a better carry than Zhongli, because for those who don't know, the reason why Zhongli was still considered a better carry than him is because Zhongli does a little bit less physical damage, but her abilities do so much more damage than Zhongli's.
Mm-hmm.
So much more damage. So, like, it still made her overall the better carry option for DPS output because her ability, her ult and her E, even accounting for uptime and whatnot, do so much more damage than Zhongli's abilities. This pushes him ahead, but, like, we don't want him to be a physical carry. We want him to be a really good support that has a useful niche, and in my opinion, he just doesn't have a useful niche in non-whale teams. Like, because his shield just isn't strong enough, and outside of his shield, he's not really providing much. Like, yeah, his Petrify is neat, but, like, we have permafreeze teams. We have permafreeze teams made of 4-star units that have up to 4 times as much crowd control.
Sorry, I had to...
No, I saw you. Like, this is a step in the right direction. I still think he needs a bit more utility in this kit. Either his shield just needs to be better, or he needs like some kind of like additional shred damage bonus, even just like a good consistent energy gen or something. Because it's just so hard to justify him as a member as a Geo Petra supports for like a Geo Splash into a team over Ningguang or Geo MC, even with these changes.
Right.
And it's hard to justify him as the second unit in a 2 Geo comp. Because he's competing with Ningguang and Geo MC and Noelle.
Right.
And he's a 5-star.
Right. He's competing with a free 5-star and 2 4-stars.
Oh, sorry, that's right. Geo MC's a 5-star technically, but yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree. It's like if you were just gonna drop Zhongli in, what are you gaining? Like over like Ningguang
bonus
or
on his shield. He doesn't give a damage bonus on his shield versus Noelle.
Right.
He doesn't give a damage bonus on his shield versus what's it? I forget. Can you scroll down again? What was it? What was the requirements for that 25% shred? That's just having a shield with 2 Geo, right?
Yeah, just having a shield with 2 Geo. So you have to have 2 Geo to get that.
That doesn't provide any kind of it doesn't provide any damage bonus overrunning a crystallized shield on Ningguang, overrunning a crystallized shield on Geo MC, overrunning Noelle's shield on top of just the raw amount of crystallized spam that she can get. Honestly, I really hope that with these changes, the biggest change I want to see, make shield stack for fuck's sake.
The issue is if they make shield stacking, they're gonna need to like lower the overall effectiveness of each individual shield. I
don't agree with that.
You don't think?
I really don't agree with that.
Well, I guess okay. Here's
shield.
No. Let me rephrase that. Are we talking about each new crystallized shield going to be added to the total, or just a crystallized shield.
No. Just make any separate shields not take the same amount of damage per hit.
Okay, no. Okay, yeah.
If you have like a Zhongli shield and a crystallized shield and a Noelle shield up, none of these shields make the other shields tankier.
Yep.
If you take 1,000 damage, they all take 1,000 damage at the same time. Make them stack, please.
What would you say about, instead of having like, because I don't think they want to do that. It'll probably be like a coding change, which I'm sure they're not going to want to do. But what if they added something that like, every time you had an additional shield, increase shield strength by 50%. Up to a maximum of 150% increase by having like Noelle shield, Zhongli shield, and a crystallized shield all at the same time or something like that.
I could see that as a nice set bonus sort of thing. To really kind of lean into the shield support thing with the Bolide carry sort of thing. That would be neat.
I worry that it would be possible to get like a 20,000 health shield or something, which seems... I don't know.
Yeah, but like also, again, all the shield characters in the game sacrifice DPS output to have the shield. Like, it's not like Jinyan just deals less damage than other pyro supports. And like she's the only physical support, but she sacrifices quite a bit of her potential damage output because she can make a shield that cleanses. Diona is higher damage than Chi-Chi, but she's less damage than Jean. She's less damage for your team than Bennett. She's less damage than like other cryo units like Kaeya because she can make a chunky shield.
Right.
Zhongli is lower damage than Ningguang and Geo MC and Noelle when a team's built around like a Noelle Bat team, right?
Right.
But that's because he's supposed to be able to provide this tankiness shield option that isn't strong because these shields don't stack. Because his shield isn't enough on its own, and even if you build a team with multiple shields that's sacrificing damage for this tankiness, they don't stack, and therefore they aren't actually getting any kind of extra use.
Right.
Zhongli's shield dies just as fast if he's the only shielding unit, and if he's the shielding unit with a crystallized shield and a Diona shield and a Noelle shield at the same time. It still dies just as fast. I know someone said that they don't want. Oh, so Death 3 is saying they don't want to stack shields, so players don't feel like it's necessary to use 4 shield characters. We never would. Like I guess I can understand that perspective, but like
you can't because Abyss is damage timed. So if you ran 4 shields, you're not going to have enough damage to clear content.
Like, how is that different from saying we don't want to have 4 healers required? That's basically the same as saying we don't want to have double healer, triple healer, quad healer.
Yeah, because you could theoretically run Bennett, Jean, Chi-Chi.
You can run a trip healer on one team and a double healer on the other team, but no one does because we need damage, and you sacrifice so much damage that way. And like being able to shield stack would allow, as Ronnie is saying, like it would allow Geo to actually properly excel at its niche. Yes, we have lower damage, but we have a lot of damage mitigation, like, which is supposed to be what Geo's niche is supposed to be. It's supposed to be the tankiness option, but the tankiness they provide just isn't that significant compared to just running a healer instead.
Right. Now, Jingcho does create resistance, so...
Yeah, that's another issue. Like, there are characters who just give you damage resistance, which is better anyway, especially when you have a healer on team. Like, Jingcho just gives you, what, 35% of talent 9 or something? Like, Jingcho just gives you straight damage resistance. Beto's ult just gives you straight damage resistance. Like, I don't know. Geo...
It's 28 at 9.
I get that they don't... Was it 28%? Yeah, 28%. Like, I get that they don't want shields to become, like, the meta. But realistically, it never will, because every shield character in the game sacrifices something for shielding. The reason why Diona's healing on her ult is kind of trash is because she also makes a shield. The reason why the damage output on Jinyan's E is so low for the 18-second cooldown is because it makes a shield that cleanses. The only character who has like a cleanser, a shield mechanic, or whatever, like a mechanic like that doesn't get that doesn't really get like a trade-off for it is Bennett. Bennett's cleanse doesn't have a trade-off. His ult is just fantastic.
Oh,
but like,
no, it is above 28% because I forgot there's something in here. 20% of Jingcho's Hydro damage bonus will be converted to additional damage reduction for Rain Swords. So if you're running a Hydro Cup and then his A4 gives you an additional 20%.
Yeah, a max of 24%, so that's up to a 40. That's up to a 52%, depending on how much Hydro bonus you have on him.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like it's just like I really want Zhongli to be good.
Yeah,
and like at least there are 3 of these changes I like. Like his shield being tankier, I like. His the Geo Resonance changes, I like. The increase in the ability to generate a stone steel with your charge E, I really like. All of these add to his utility. All of these add to his kind of niche as his tankiness supports. But I don't really like the damage changes because, like, frankly speaking, I don't care if his carry potential gets higher, and I don't care if his E does a little bit more damage. What I want out of his E is consistent crystallized generation, energy generation, so you can play around that.
And then I'm still asking, like, okay, so we've got Zhongli, who is kind of a little bit of damage and kind of a little bit of a shield, and people are like, oh, it's great because he does that. But like, he's a 5-star, and Bennett has an ult that amps your damage, your entire team's damage by like the highest percentage of the game, I think, currently, as far as like an ability goes.
It is telling that with all
and
of
then
the
heals you,
many
and
utilities,
then cleanses you
gene stacks,
yeah,
Bennett's ult attack buff is simply better. Like, you know, everything that Jean provides, she's still considered a lower tier, like just barely lower tier healer than Bennett is because of how powerful Bennett's ult is just because of the attack buff. But she's providing, you know, CC, Veneerer, she's providing energy, she's providing like Anemo energy, and she's providing all of these things that stack on each other as like these little bits of utility that build up to make her very good as a healer with investment. But it's still just all of that collectively is worse than Bennett just giving you a bucket of attack on everyone.
And that was even further than that. And then he also has an element that can react away shields, like like an
amazing shield breaker.
Yeah. And then Jingcho has a huge amount of damage, some of the highest damage off of his ult in the game. His E is a
some
dump
of the best
truck.
single target in the entire game.
His dump truck. And then he gives you a huge damage reduction.
Reaction enabler.
Damage reduction, and he's a
And
reaction.
he can heal a little bit.
And a little bit of heal.
And he heals a little bit.
And then you look then you're just like looking at Zhongli, and these are 2 4-stars. And then you're looking at Zhongli and you're like, okay, what are you providing for my team? I don't know.
And then like also we then look into like even like because like again like comparing him to Bennett and Jingcho is possibly problematic because those are 2 of the 4-stars that are considered to be better than a lot of the 5-stars. But let's just say Kaeya. Kaeya does more DPS than him by a pretty big margin for base damage, and on top of that, he enables melt. Just like when you calculate out his E spam and his ult spam at the same like 12-second intervals compared to Zhongli's, he's out DPSing in base damage. He is enabling reactions. He is breaking shields. And yeah, he can't heal, he can't give you a shield or anything, but does that matter when he's one of the best enablers for a permafreeze comp?
Right.
Does Zhongli's Petrify really mean much when we have access to multiple permafreeze comps in the game that do more damage than having a Zhongli Petrify every so often and have more crowd control? Like, does that matter? I don't know. I just still don't feel like he has enough utility to compensate for running him instead of anyone else in your teams.
There's people who are saying, well, what? I mean, the Bennett and Jingcho are the best 4-stars in the game. Why should he be better? The point is, if a 5-star doesn't mean something, then what's the goddamn point? Like it is obvious that story relevance or like character presence in the story isn't what makes a 5-star. Because Ningguang is the most important character in the second half of this game, and she's a 4-star. So what does a 5-star mean if not a good character?
Yeah, especially when you look at the cost for it. The issue too is that this is why I keep stressing I want Zhongli's shield to be stronger. I want his utility to be higher. because I don't care if he is like in general best support like Bennett is, right? Like there's almost no teams where Bennett is not the best option to act as your healer for that team. There's very few teams that work that way because he just adds so much. Like he doesn't need to be like that. He doesn't need to be like Jean, where Jean works well if you throw her into literally any fucking comp as the healer as well, right? Like he doesn't need to be a general best character, but he needs to be more like Child. He needs to have a niche that he fulfills better than anyone else, and Child does that. That's why we keep saying Child is a really strong character whose teams are expensive, because he is very high power potential when his teams are expensive and you build comps well around him and you manage his cooldowns well.
Which is kind of what we talk about.
Niche.
Which is what we talk about. Chi-Chi. She has a niche. She is, without a single doubt, the best healer in the game. Cost for cost. You don't even have to invest that hard.
Outputs.
You don't even have to invest that hard into Chi-Chi, and she will give you every bit of healing you need.
Yeah. But
why she's bad is eventually you have enough healing. Eventually Bennett's ult will heal you enough. Eventually Jean's ult will heal you enough. Eventually Xingqiu will damage your duck enough that you're fine. At that point, what does Chi-Chi provide other than reacting away for Cryo, which is useful? But what does she do? That's why she's considered low tier. Mona, somebody said Mona was bad. I just want to kind of laugh at that. Mona is one of the...
Do y'all know how big Mona's ult number can get if you play her right and build a team around her?
Is one of the best damage amplifiers in the game. If you build around a Mona, that is how you get these huge million hits.
Million damage number hits, and they're annoying to play. They're very micro intensive. You have to order your skills properly to make them work. But just so people understand why Mona's so strong. So, she's one of the only two one of the only two units in the game who can have this big base damage number vaporized, right? Her and Child's ults can be vaporized to make the number double or higher depending on EM. On top of that, the damage instance gets her Omen bonus, which is like 72% or something at Talent Sick. It's an insanely high amount of additional damage bonus. On top of that, for some weird-ass reason, you can double Vape Mona's ult, so it does 4 times as much damage instead of 2 times as much damage from the Vaporize. If you apply Pyro first, and then Mona ult, and then trigger the hit, and then trigger the Mona burst damage with another Pyro hit, it double vaporizes. So it does 4 times as much damage, plus the 70% Omen bonus on a move that also has higher total base damage than Child's ranged ult does, which is like the main comparison for that kind of rotation team. But the setup is really difficult, but that's her niche. If you can make the setup work, she can hit a bigger number than literally anything else in the game can ever dream of.
Yeah. And it's actually kind of funny.
They have these niches.
We were talking...
And Zhongli's... Yeah.
It's funny because we were talking about why they use Child in the 13-second floor 12 speedrun is not because he deals more damage. Mona would deal more damage. It's because they met the damage threshold, the one-shot, and Child's animation is faster.
And bigger range. Yeah,
but because
it's faster. Child is the speed. Yeah, like the way that Charlie, who is a Leviathan, like C6 everything, R5 5-star weapons, etc., theory crafter over at Kaching and Child's main, who I do discuss quite a bit of stuff with because he's the main guy who tests these like Leviathan speedrunner builds. When discussing with Charlie, the way he puts it is that when they can both one-shot, Child is the better choice.
Right. Because
he is easier to set up. His animation is faster, and it doesn't require you to also pop the damage again afterwards like Mona does. Like Mona, not only is Mona's cast time longer, you then have to switch to Bennett and hit something with an E, or switch to Diluc and hit something with an E to pop it, right? So when they can both one-shot, Child is better. But Mona can literally deal like 3 times as much damage as he can, so if you're not already one-shotting with both, she's better. Assuming you can, do the micro and do the skill ordering properly to maximize her ult damage, which is not easy to do, but it's a thing. Like, yeah, Mona is better until they both can one-shot, then Child is just simply put faster and easier to use.
So I guess what they want to do now is they want to make Zhongli's niche shields, which is
that's what I think it should be.
Well, yeah, which is what we think it should be.
Yeah.
And it's going in a right direction.
Yeah. It's the right direction, but like these changes to like his E damage and his basic attack damage, I don't think that
Yeah,
I feel like that power budget should be
Yeah,
shifted towards
exactly.
making his shields even better.
which is what I was
'Cause,
about
like-
to say. Like his power budget. Every character has a power
It's so
budget.
spread out.
They want to, you don't want to make everything too good. You want
You
to
don't want
budget it
Venti.
into certain areas. Right now,
Yeah.
they've kind of pulled a Gene with him. Honestly, Gene is like his best comparison.
Yeah.
But he's still not as good as Gene if you look at him from a practical standpoint.
Yeah.
Because Gene's a veneer or a venerer.
Yeah.
Gene is a healer.
Yeah.
Gene is a
Gene is the
cleanser.
other-
Gene has a
Yep.
huge burst on her E. And that's kind of what they're trying to do with Zhongli. They're trying to, a huge, like a little bit of a burst on his E, a nice ult, some CC, a shield. And he's Petra, but, like...
But like the big difference too with him and Jean is that Jean doesn't have power budget put towards her basic attacks. He
Right.
does. Like Jean's basic attacks are not good. Her charge attack's neat because it's CC on small units. Like that's cool. But like her basic attacks aren't that good.
Zhongli
And,
is not a
like-
healer. If you have to have a $2,000 vanity healer, I see that
Yeah, we're not talking
comment.
about
I see
comments,
that
yeah.
comment. No, Zhong is not a healer.
And again, we are talking in context of, our viewer base, which is primarily free to play and low to play, is not like C6. The reality is, guys, if you can afford like Con 6 5-stars and like multiple refined 5-star weapons and shit, you don't need any of our advice because you can beat the game from pure numbers at that point. Like, none of our advice really matters that much to whales who aren't going for like speed runs like Charlie does or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter because you will win by pure numerical superiority at that point.
Right.
You can run terrible team compositions, play poorly, and still
Well,
9-star Abyss 12.
Well, yeah, it's like we were talking
numerical
about.
superiority.
It's like we were talking about, people with a C6 D-Luke with an R5 level 90 Wolf's Gravestone.
That's 170% attack.
Yeah, they're showing
R5
off how
Gravestone.
good Zhongli's shield is. Like, oh wow, look at this. No, your D-Luke literally carried you. You could have dropped Zhongli and you would have done the exact
You could have
same
run
thing.
the Luke by himself with a level 1 Kaeya to break Thunder Shields and still 9 stars.
Yeah.
Like, that's how powerful your characters are.
You don't think anybody has C6 D-Luke? You would be surprised.
No, there are a lot of people with C6 to Luke. I know at least 8.
Yeah.
Like,
and-
I chat with at least 5 to 6 people who have a C6.
Right. Yeah, and I've
A
had
lot
people,
of people do.
I've had
I
people,
don't know if you know how many people have 5-figure accounts in this game.
and I've had people tell me, it's like, oh well, I ran Zhongli on my team and he made it so good. And my honest to God first question I wanted to ask them was, what was your team? And like what was your team? And get an honest
here's the thing,
answer
guys.
out of them how much investment they had in their team, because
And like, we've made videos about this. If he is level 90, 40 plus K HP, at least cons 2, cons 3 to get an even stronger shield, Zhongli feels good. Because you're getting twice as many shields, you don't have to spend 2 seconds casting shields because you get one from your ult. Because the shield is over twice as strong because you have talent 9 or higher. And on top of that, you can afford to have like 40k. You can afford to have like 40k HP or higher because you have higher base HP from having a level 90 Zhongli. But like reaching that without the constellations, just getting that like plus 20 set, Zhongli to level 90, all HP artifacts, so you're hitting like 45k HP, right?
Mm-hmm.
For a free-to-play player, to put it into context, that is well over a month and a half of free resin
right.
for one unit, just to make him function at that level that those whale players who play with him and he feels good to them can get. Like, just to put that into context, that's what we're talking about in terms of investment. So that's why we don't calculate for that stuff, personally. That's why our channel and our Twitch and like what we discuss doesn't calculate for that, because the only people who that matters for are people who have so much money invested into their accounts that from raw numerical superiority, every character is good for them.
Now we want to stress that like there's nothing wrong with doing that if that's how you if that's how you enjoy spending your money and that's your hobby and you have the disposable income and you're not obviously having an issue with that kind of scenario where you have a gambling problem. There's nothing wrong with spending as much money as you want on a game. For some people, that's just what they do.
Play how you want
know?
to play, and some people like to play that way, but that's not our audience. That's
Yeah.
not what we calculate for. That's not what we that's not what we care to analyze on the channel and on the Twitch and in the things we do, because that's not relevant to the people, to what we do, right? That's not really relevant to what we do. Because real talk, who cares if Zhongli costs you damage when your Klee's hitting 30k per attack, right?
Right.
Like at that point, you don't. It doesn't matter. What you care about is that comfiness he brings with high investments.
And my philosophy has always kind of been, and this is my personal opinion. I'm not speaking for Jinx. I'm speaking. This is from a personal way. You know, a lot of people will come up into the stream and they say, "Well, Zhongli's shield, you know, you can't do damage if you're dead. That's why Zhongli's shield is good." And I respond to them, yes, that is correct. The enemy can't do damage if they're dead. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that is the thing that a lot of people forget, is that if you kill things 20% faster, you have 20% less attacks you have to dodge. Like, DPS increases do lead to cozier runs because they're shorter. And, like, people don't realize that, like, that's the thing we often discussed in, like, Monster Hunter back in the day, was that there were certain skills that were worth the increase in effective health and increase in tankiness versus the loss of damage because of how the numbers were balanced in that game. Health boost 3 is fantastic in Monster Hunter World, but defense boost is a trap, because the amount of DPS you lose to get a high defense boost sets is not worth the very mediocre increase in tankiness it gives you, when you also have to remember that if things die 20% slower, you have 20% more attacks you have to dodge.
Right.
Like, that's why it's important, and like that's why, for example, defense isn't worth it in Genshin, because even running a white blind at level 80 with a full passive stacked up only gives you about 25, maybe 26, 27% more effective health. So like, is that worth like the DPS loss of not running a different weapon instead, when you're only getting 25, 26% more health on one unit versus killing something 10, 20% time 20% faster and having to dodge 10 and 20% less attacks, and having to deal with 20% less ice cages, and having to deal with 20% less shields coming up on Fatui units? Like, is that worth it? And like, the thing is, for people who don't have to worry about damage because they have 5-star weapons, level 90 units, plus 20 sets with great substats and stuff, it makes sense that Zhongli feels good to them. It makes sense that running more comfiness and coziness in your team makes sense to them. But like, from a lower to play expectation, like for example, my Zhongli, thank you, my Zhongli is level 60 out of 70. That's a reasonable range for a free to play player to hit. That takes, what is it, 6 days of free resin? I forget. I have to pull up the chart like for the last video, but it's like 6 days of free resin. It's about a week, a little under a week, to get Zhongli to Ascension 4 from level 1. Okay. Then his talent level ups on top of that are probably a few extra days. Then you have to get him a full plus 16 HP set, which I have on him to test. I also run, I've run like effective attack builds. I've run like mixed builds with some HP, like 20k HP instead of 30k HP, etc. But like that plus like a black tassel for more HP to make his shield even better, even though I'm sacrificing more of my damage. Like, I also have tried him with Fav Lance and stuff like that, obviously. But like, if we're going for the full HP build, for focusing on making his shield as strong as possible, that is about, probably about 2 to 2.5 weeks of free resin of investments to get Zhongli just that strong. And he's only tanking 7.5k per shield every 12 seconds. In fact, I played with him with these kinds of sets, testing out sets, testing him in comps for 10 days, using him exclusively in my teams. And not only was he actually causing, in some cases, losing me more damage than not running a 4th member, he got me killed more often than he saved me. Because the moment I flipped that switch in my brain and stopped trying to dodge because I assumed that the stagger resistance and the shield would be able to tank hits, I died. Because I stopped actively dodging.
Yeah.
Because with that 2.5 weeks of investment of free-to-play resin to make him that strong a shielder, it still wasn't enough. It's still not strong enough. Yeah. I can't face tank. And mind you, I'm used to face tank builds. I run Jingcho Bennett teams all the time. Jingcho damage resistance plus Bennett ult literally is a face tank team. I have literally hits from all 3 Fatui in the last wave of 12-3 at the same time, and also tanked icicles from the ceiling and lived through it.
Right.
Like, I am used to running face tank builds. Zhongli is not a face tanker. Like, he's not a face tanker unless you have, like, C2 or C3, talent level 9 and higher, and, like, 40k HP. He's not a face tanker. Like, that's why I keep saying his shield isn't strong enough. Because unless he has this whale-level investment, like, his shield just isn't strong enough. 7.5k HP is not a lot of damage tanky in late game.
What I would like to see, and this is some people in chat were talking about mobile, which is obviously something that we really don't consider because we are PC players. Mobile actually doesn't have a support for a controller. Apparently, you can't even plug a controller in and make it work.
Really?
Yeah. Apparently, zero controller support. I put up a poll asking people what percentage, what platform do you play on? We had like less than 5% were mobile. And granted, when you consider how many thousands of people voted, that is a sizable amount of people. But neither of us are ever going to try to play on mobile. I'm not gonna. No. Sorry.
Yeah, I tried playing on mobile to do my like resin stuff when I was like not at my computer, and I could do it until like AR 40, and at AR 40 I was like, nope, this is fucking impossible.
But it's really honestly one of those things that needs to be spoken to about. Like, I disagree that they don't have controller support. I think that needs to be implemented.
Yeah, 100% agree.
I don't know. It's such a small subset of content. I don't think we can, like, especially with our group, I don't think we can ever try to do content for it.
Like, realistically speaking, this is our living. So that means that we're going to make the content that matches our audience the best. Right? This is our living. There's only so many videos we can put out. There's only so much stuff we can math out and crunch and everything. Like, we honestly just can't appeal and calc things specifically for the mobile users because it's such a low percentage of our viewer base, and we have to make a living, right? Like, even if there's calculations and stuff that I want to do that are interesting to me and will be interesting videos to me, if our audience doesn't give a shit about it and it gets 30,000 views, that doesn't help pay my bills.
Right.
And, like, we aren't the, like, clickbaity, try to get big views from clickbaity sort of stuff. Like, we want to put out good content, but when we put the time into making good content, we have to make sure it's content that people will want to watch because this pays our bills.
I do want to say, it's not that other people's clickbait videos aren't good content. We're not trying to, like, call anybody out. Like, if you enjoy that kind of super pog, wow, look at this huge million damage number content, like, go for it. That's just not what we're doing.
Yeah. But, like, we don't, like, I want to make videos clickable. That's why, I will make titles and, like, thumbnails are like XX is a trap, right? Because statistically speaking, that hooks people to click on it, makes the title more clickable, increases our click-through rate, and, like, again, this is our living. We don't make that much money. Like, our channel is not big enough that, like, we make a shitload of money off of this stuff. Like, I pay my bills with this full time, but, like, and have some money I can put towards savings, but, like, this is at the end of the day my job.
Yeah. Not that we're complaining because this is what we both chose to do. Great. We both chose to leave extremely lucrative positions in management of completely different fields, but when
I was consulting, I made over 3 times as much money as I'm making right now.
And when I was in logistics management, I made like 5 times as much money. So depending on contract, obviously there were contracts I had that were 10 times as much money, but 70-hour 4-month contracts, actual hell. But point is, like, we enjoy doing this, we chose to do this, but that also means realistically, like, if we don't want to have to resort to doing, like, clickbait stuff that, like, we could do to make money, but we don't want to because that's not what our channel is about, it's not what people expect out of our channel, like, then we do have to make the content that appeals to our audience, and unfortunately our audience isn't mobile. And our audience isn't hyper whales either. Like, there are definitely hyper whales who watch our stuff, but that's not the majority of our audience. That's not who pays our bills.
who pays our bills are the free-to-play, low-to-play players who want cheap deeps and want us to give them objective opinions on the numbers in the game, so they know whether to pull for things or not. They know how to build stuff. They know how to invest their resin. They know what characters to invest in, stuff like that. Like, that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, yes, we will talk about or mention how to whales Zhongli will feel really strong, but that doesn't matter to us or our audience, right? What matters to our audience is, how does a Zhongli with 2.5 weeks of free-to-play resin investment feel? And the answer is not good.
Yeah.
Level 60 out of 70, plus 16 HP set, mostly 5-star. Throw in either Fav Lance or Black Tassel, so it's either 25 or 30k HP, depending on whether I'm using Fav Lance or Black Tassel. Both of those level 60 out of 70, they're not even level 90 or anything. Like, talent level 6s, that's 2.5 weeks, maybe more, of free-to-play resin. How does that feel in comps? And the answer is bad. I cannot justify running him over any of my other units at that level of investment, because we don't have access to these level 90 Zhonglis with level 90 higher refinement, Skyward Spines, or Vortex Vanquishers and whatnot. We don't have plus 20 sets with crazy HP substats putting us at 40, 50, 40, 45k HP, right? We don't have Constellation 2, Constellation 3, and neither does our audience. So, like, that, while we can mention that stuff and be like, and especially mention it for the sake of being like, guys, these whale YouTubers and content creators aren't lying to you. He feels good to them, and here's why we understand it feels good to them. But at the end of the day, that's not what people cared about from our channel.
Right.
That's not what our audience wants to know. They want to know is, if I spend 2 weeks investing into Zhongli, will he be good for me?
Mm.
And the answer is, in my opinion, no.
As far as those who are just joining us now, who joined after we kind of already went through all this, our opinions on Zhongli, I guess I'm going to say my opinion. I won't speak for you quite yet. My opinion is, overall, this is a great buff to Geo. It's the right direction that needs to be done.
Definitely agree with that.
Zhongli is being buffed in a way that I don't think is necessarily the way I want him to be, but maybe at the community at large wants him to be that way. But I personally think he should be buffed more towards the support area, because we don't really have a lot of or any good Geo supports. But we have lots of Geo carries. As far as utilities.
We have big base number Geo units. We don't have a lot of utility Geo
here. And
units.
while you go and explain your piece on your side, I'm actually going to run to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back.
Sure. So, like, to kind of what's the word? Expound? No. My brain is struggling to think of this word. Anyway, the point is to go more in depth with, like, what Tuner was saying on that, and at least with my opinions on this. I do agree that these buffs are in the right direction. He needs buffs. They are buffing his shield. 50% is a big deal. I don't think it's enough, personally, but it is a big deal to get 50% more strength on his shield. His new ability to create a steal while popping his shield is really nice. It lowers his on-field requirement time as a support. That's really good. It consolidates his moveset a bit. Expand, elaborate. I think I mixed those two somehow. Anyway, my brain's weird. But it is a good move in the right direction. I do like that change. I do like that he is going to have a bit more tankiness. He's going to have a bit more consolidation on his field time, which does make him a better support because he's eating less screen time by being able to consolidate, placing a stone steel down, and popping his shield at the same time. I do really like the fact that his shield is going to, when you're casting the shield, he's going to have more knockback resistance, because I will tell you, from having used them for 10 days exclusively on my teams, holy goddamn, how many times I got knocked out of my shield charge, or my charge E, because it's a 2-second cooldown, and a lot of hits that will knock you out of that have less than 2 seconds of wind-up time. So even if I dodge the last hit and start popping a shield, I'll sometimes just get knocked out of it and not be able to do anything about it unless I dodge and cancel my charge E, right? Like, I'm glad that that's going to be a thing. But like Tuner was saying, I don't think I feel like that, at least for how I feel he would fit better, and how to buff him better to fit as this niche of this, like, shield, tankiness, comfort support, the power budget's still too spread out, because they're putting some of his power budget into buffing his basic attacks and buffing his E damage. To be clear, I don't care if Zhongli deals lower base damage than other units. I don't care if he deals less damage than Kaeya. I don't care if he deals less damage in GOMC, because that's not what you're supposed to bring him on for in your teams. The reason you bring a Zhongli into your team is because he provides tankiness and comfort and utility. But he doesn't have enough of that right now, and I still don't think he's gonna have enough of that after these buffs. Going from a 7.5k shield at 2 to 3 weeks of investment into Zhongli to going to a like 10 to 11k shield is not gonna help that much.
Yeah.
Like, especially without Cons 2, because Cons 2 doubles his shield uptime. So Cons 2 is really good, but without Cons, like, Zhongli does not feel good as a shield support without Cons 2. Like, I've been running him at C0, and it just does not. Because his Cons 2 doubles his shield uptime and also removes the need to do the 2-second cast time to get his shield up. Because it pops when you pop your ults. So it's so nice for the comfort and coziness tank support, like shield tanking support is supposed to be, to have Cons 2, but that's Cons 2. That's like upwards of $900 if you get super unlucky.
Am I looking at this wrong? What's Cons 2 do?
He gets a shield. He gets a shield whenever he pops his ult.
Oh, okay. I mean, okay. I guess I.
Yeah.
Was wondering.
Yeah, that's all it does. But
Okay.
it's really good for that tankiness support role because you don't have to be doing your 2-second charge ease all the time.
Basically,
you
like
also
the,
have twice as many shields up
the
in the 12-second
rotation
period potentially.
Okay, so like the rotation pop ult style play we were
Sorry,
talking about.
C2 is 3 Zhonglis, right? So yeah, about 900 to 1,000 if you get like max pity super unlucky. But like the other 5 stars in the game don't require the constellations to be good. And it still feels to me, even with 50% more shield health, he's still gonna feel like you need Cons 2 to feel good. Oh, thank you, Kanta.
Kanta, thank you for the raid. We're doing like a little podcast thing right now, so
yeah.
We're not I don't know. Thank you very much. I'm sorry.
But yeah, I think that personally, with how I would want to see him buffed, and how I would want to see what niche he fills, like how Child fills that really potent burst damage, DPS, melee carry, nice ult, nice vape ults role in expensive teams that everyone has at least plus 16 on their sets, right? Like that's the niche Child fills. I feel like Zhongli needs to fill a similar niche, but even at that same level of team investment that we get for Child, he's still not shielding enough.
Right.
Even if it goes up to a 10k shield, that's not enough for endgame content, and we're gonna get harder content. Like, this is the patch 1.0 endgame content. They're gonna be adding more difficult content that hits harder, and his shield's gonna tank 1 hit, maybe, with some chip damage in that kind of content. Like, and that's with 2 to 3 weeks of investment of free-to-play resources. 2 to 3 weeks of free-to-play investment resources into a Diluc gives you a character that can almost solo 12-3 DPS-wise.
Yeah.
Into a Bennett, it gives you a character who has a bit less DPS than the Luke, but also actually makes you an immortal face tanker because of how strong his healing is. Like,
now
into a Jean, it gives you this healer who provides so much, who provides everything Zhongli does, but better, basically.
Now,
like,
as far as Albedo goes, because people have been asking about what our preliminary thoughts on Albedo are, because we're talking about
really
how
these
for
one thing, but
we're not talking about leaks, but assuming, just looking at his kit that we've seen the videos of, I'm really hoping that they try to put all of his power budget into supporting and utility, because again,
agreed, 100% agreed.
That's what we need. One of the reasons why I don't think Zhongli is going to scale as well into later content is because they're trying to put so much of his power budget into his auto attacks.
Yep.
I'm
They're trying to spread his power budget too thin,
really,
instead of just making him really good at shielding, you know?
Really hoping, and especially since they're releasing, not only are they releasing Albedo at the same time, they're also releasing the Festering whatever, the new 4-star sword at the same time. I hope that's an indicator that they're really trying to focus on his E ability, and they're like not trying at all to put into his auto attacks. I hope that's the direction.
I agree. Like, we don't need more auto heavy units. And I said it when Zhongli first came out. I think his power budget leaned too much towards putting in power into his Crescent Pike auto attack budget. And now they're adding more power into it, and I would much rather him not get the damage bonus on that and instead get an even stronger shield.
Right.
Or get a shield that has some sort of more unique mechanic to it.
Right.
But like Tuna was saying at the beginning when we were kind of doing this recap thing, it makes sense that they're putting power into his basic attacks because they're consolidating much larger data pools than we have access to, right? Like they're saying they're summarizing the feedback from tens of thousands of players, and chances are, since they're putting power into his basic attacks, it's very likely that possibly even a majority of the player base are running Zhongli as a carry.
Well, I'm
and
only
we
hoping
may have had something to do with that.
Yeah, that's just about to. I'm only hoping that we had minimal impact on that. Because I did see a lot of people, I did see a lot of comments on our video where we tested Zhongli like, oh, well, you guys just wanted him to be a DPS. Why did you do so much testing on DPS? He was supposed to be a support.
Because you have to do testing on that stuff. I don't have to test
You
his
can just
output.
say,
I can make a
has
spreadsheet on it in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's really easy to
It takes me 5 minutes to calculate his support DPS. I have to frame count for basic combos. That's how I know how strong he is with basic attacks, because I have to frame count it.
Yeah.
That's required to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so moving forward in the future, because obviously I'm going to be doing the same thing for the new characters, right? I'm going to test their basic attacks to see how much power budget went into that. Yeah. But I'm going to be better about clarifying, guys, the only reason I'm putting so much time into this is because I have to.
Big red flashing text on the screen. We're only testing because we have to.
We have
not
to.
testing it would like why not
to frame count different animation cancel combos to understand his potential as a physical damage carry or whatever. I don't have to do that to understand his damage support outputs. That takes me 5 minutes with a spreadsheet and like a list of values to calculate.
Yeah, you're literally calculating out, okay, cooldown on the ability, uptime on the ability if it has one, and then
how much damage does it do?
How much damage does it do? And then like with brief consideration to energy regen and energy cost, like that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
You could easily throw that together in 5-10 minutes.
5 to 10 minutes. Yeah, it's 5 to 10 minutes. That's why I didn't bother doing it, because I didn't have to. But if I was going to, but what my testing time has to go to initially is frame counting the things I have to frame count to understand the potential. Which again, I didn't do a good job of clarifying that, and that's a thing that I have learned now. Is that moving forward, every new banner when I'm testing these things, I have to clarify that. Because, to be clear, I don't want Zhongli to be a good physical carry. I want him to be the tanky shield support, comfort support pick he's supposed to be, based on his design that he's not fulfilling well right now.
You want the comfy carry dom daddy that you always wanted him to be.
Exactly. Like, Christ. Like, every time like, the fact that I see them buffing his damage, I feel it's one of those, like, I feel like the buffs they've listed on here are 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, right? Because, like, the 3 steps forward are, like, you know, he can make a stone steel with his charge E. He has stagger resistance. We're making his shield tankier. We're giving him some, like, damage buff utility in his shield through geo resonance, etc., etc.,
and then
right?
They pull this
like,
shit.
that's a step forward in the right direction. And then they add damage back to his E and his basic attack, and I'm just like, that power budget should have gone into making his shield even better, or giving him more buffing utility, or more shredding utility, or consistent energy utility, or any of these things, right? Like, that's more the direction I feel like he should be leaning towards.
I still think
then diverting power budget towards more damage, because I don't think he needs to do more damage. We have 3 fucking damage Geo characters already. We don't need a 4th one.
I still maintain
like that tanky support.
I still maintain, just for those of you who haven't heard yet, I think the perfect buff for him would be on Geo Resonance, on his Pillar's Resonance out. We got like a small damage, or a small defense shred. Maybe not Geo Shred, just defense shred, so that everybody can get some utility out of him. And then like a small stagger, because it's like an earthquake happening underneath them. They should be like, oh, whoa, what's going on? You're like a small stagger.
Yeah. Or something.
And because then that would help with, like,
even
keep
if the first
him in
hit
the
had a
freaking
higher
zone.
stagger value.
Keep him in the zone.
So the thing is, too, One thing that I just thought of, if Zhongli's initial hit on his tap E had a high stagger value, like we're talking like Gene level stagger value,
Yeah.
he would suddenly gain quite a bit of utility as a hit stun support. Because part of the reason why I like running Gene better than Jinyan on my Abyss teams is because with Gene and the other units of my team, I can effectively hit stun chain a Fatui after their shield breaks for 20 plus seconds so they don't get to reshield. If I run Jinyan, I lose that ability because it is too long a cooldown. So I can only hit stun them for about 10 seconds max. Without the Gene in there to add the extra hit stun for the hit stun chain. If his 4-second tap E had a high stagger value, he could work well for those kinds of hit stun rotations. But it doesn't. It doesn't have enough stagger to add to a hit stun chain properly.
Honestly, I think in general, the overall buffs that they've made here, like just the way that they've changed Geo, it just makes Noel, Geo MC, and Ningguang better.
Yeah, like I honestly feel like they got the better end of the stick with the Geo resonance buffs than Zhongli did, if I'm being honest. Like and don't get me wrong, I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth. I'm glad his shield's getting stronger. I just don't think it's enough still.
Yeah, man. You don't want to look that gift horse and its mouse. That'd be rude.
Yeah. Yeah, like I just genuinely don't still feel like it's enough. But you know, it's one of those things where I'm looking at this from like a tackling endgame content for relatively low money spent sort of perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he just doesn't fit that.
Yeah.
Like him having a 10k shield at 2 to 3 weeks of investment might be really nice for domains. It might be really nice for like people who only care about doing story stuff and exploring the world and like don't care about doing Abyss. That he probably is nice for that. Because I will say, when using him in the overworld, he felt tanky enough.
Yeah.
He didn't feel tanky enough in AR-45 domains, but he felt tanky enough in like the overworld. But the moment I touch AR-45 domains, the moment I touch Child, Wolf Boss, any of these things at AR-50, the moment I touch Abyss 9 through 11, even just Abyss 9, he's not tanky enough.
Yeah.
He's nowhere near tanky enough. He gets me killed more often than he saves me because when I actively stop dodging, I die because he's only soaking 1 to 2 hits. Like, he's not tanky enough to fulfill the tanky support role I feel like his design is pushing him towards.
Yeah.
And would be a good niche for him.
Yeah. But, you know, and it's like we said, you know, if this is apparently what the community wanted, assuming they're not just like basing that off of our numbers.
To be a good physical carry, sure.
Then I'm glad that they're doing this for the community. If that's the way they want the community to run, then fine. You know, it's
like I don't have access to the aggregate data.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe fucking 60 to 70% of people using Zhongli in the community are running him as a physical carry. Maybe they just don't want to use him as a support. Because don't get me wrong, his basic attack combo is so sexy.
Yeah.
Like, it is. The animations, the kick, all of it is so sexy.
I'm telling you, though, I'm ticked off that, like, it was very clear that he was supposed to do geo damage and physical damage at the same time. It's really frustrating to me that they removed that. I'm gonna show this to stream real quick.
Yeah. But yeah, this is good. It's the right direction. I still don't think it's going to be enough. I genuinely don't think it's going to be enough.
So for
they're
those,
going to have to add some more utility buffs past this, but it is a movement in the right direction, but it's not going to be enough to make me ever recommend them.
So for those of you who don't know, Zhongli has a different weapon on his first attack, his forward attack, and then his kick attack has a different weapon.
And his charge.
Yeah, and on his charge. If you use Elemental Sight, you can see the Geo weapon.
Geo infused.
It's Geo infused, and then it's not Geo infused. So, like, clearly, this first hit, that throw hit and the kick hit, were supposed to deal Geo damage. He was supposed to be a hybrid, which went in line with those leaks that we heard a long time ago, the beta stuff, that he was going to physical and Geo shred on his ult. And you can see, like, if you go and, throw this in there, you'll see that his weapon has Cryo infused, but then, like, on those hits, it's still doing Geo. So, like, it was still, like, it was intended to override Chong Yun's. Like,
also,
which would explain why he had, like, Geo damage ascension.
There's a redeemed message here that I want to answer from Josh Chuan.
Yep.
Or Joshua? I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but yeah. Why would we need Zhongli as a support if we already have like 35 OP support characters already? Because he would fulfill a niche other supports can't.
Right. Because
which
like
is that comfiness, stagger resistance, shield tanking support that we don't really have any of right now. Like, we have characters with shields. We have characters with stagger resist. We don't have a character who is specifically the best character to pick for adding that into a team. And he's not that right now. His shield just simply isn't strong enough to be that right now. Unless you have, you know, $1,000 investment on him, level 90, cons 2, 3 plus. Like, he doesn't fulfill that niche right now.
By the way,
like, it's just like how Chi-Chi is objectively the worst, like, next to Zhongli is objectively the worst 5-star character at high investment teams and late game teams, but she still fills the niche of being the cheapest healer in the game.
Right.
You don't have to invest shit into Chi-Chi and she will make your team immortal, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, she still fills that niche. Child is not very good until you have teams with full sets and everyone's doing good damage to gap fill for him. But when you do, he is a very good burst 3 to 6 second output carry with a very powerful vaporize ult. And he does have this niche he fills, and that's fine. I'm fine with characters having very specific niches they're very strong at.
Yeah.
Zhongli doesn't have that.
It's actually really good game balance. I mean, it's like if you move their power budget into one
Venti.
specific thing, we
don't want another Venti.
Yeah,
That's
just bad for
Bennett.
game. This is bad for the game.
Yeah. I am wasting friendship points constantly because I still use Bennett as my healer in basically every comp. So he's hit friendship 10 like 3 weeks ago. And I'm wasting friendship points on my resin burns because I'm still using Bennett. Because it's hard to justify running anyone else.
Just real quick, I do want to, because we haven't said it all. If you happen to be unfollowed and you haven't followed already, we'd greatly appreciate it. It's free for you to do so and helps out the channel a lot. If you are watching this in the future on YouTube, we'd appreciate a sub. If you haven't, we can show you the stats, but pretty much it's like 10% of people who watch the video are subbed. The other 90% don't subscribe. If you enjoy our content, we'd really appreciate it. So
I know friendship points aren't important. I'm just
actually that's a side point. Hold on, no Jinx, that's a side point.
Yeah,
I would not be shocked the way that other gacha games work if you need friendship level 10. And I wouldn't even be shocked if you needed C6 to ascend to level 100. In other gacha games,
our Popo for subbing.
Yes. Old Pandawan, thank you for the sub. And Mr. Popo, thank you for the subs. In other gacha games, a lot of the ascensions, like to the highest level of is locked behind your friendship with the character. Usually in those kind of gacha games, I'm sure I don't know. I know it's that way in Azure Lane. I'm sure it's that way in like other. I don't know. I haven't played Girls Frontline or anything like that. But it's usually like you're like dating the characters, and when you get them to love you, like their highest level of friendship, then you can ascend them to a higher tier. So.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if they add a mechanic like that later on in future patches. Makes sense. But yeah. So, I mean, but that aside, like...
Any fellow Shikikans?
My point is that I genuinely don't want them to add in any more Bennetts, any more Ventis, any more of these characters that are just like, you know...
Prince for life.
Yeah, I could run other characters that have more synergy for my team comp, but this character just adds so much value by existing. Right? I don't want more characters like that because that power creeps the game massively. I want more niche characters. I like Child's design because he has this really potent niche that makes him not very good in general teams, but makes him very potent in his niche. I like that Mona hits a number up to 3 times bigger than any other number can hit in the game if you build a team around her. I like the fact that Jean has this specific synergy in Double and Nemo comps that makes her really potent, and that her role consolidation, while not necessary in a lot of comps, makes her amazing in certain comps. Like for example, in the new 1.2 Cryo set, Kaeya, Chongyun, Jingcho, permafreeze, 55% crit all the time on Kaeya. Comp we talk about, Jean is the best possible healer slot for that because she provides the Vanilla bonus for all your cryo damage and also heals. But she's not always she's better than Bennett for that specific team. But like I like the fact that these characters have these niches that make them very potent. Zhongli doesn't have that. Zhongli's niche right now is he's a good comfort pick when you have a 5-figure account and so much damage you don't care about more damage, and so much investment in Zhongli that for a regular free-to-play player would be a month and a half or more of free-to-play resin to make him a sufficient tank support.
Miyoji, thank you for the tier.
Not even a great one, just a sufficient one.
Alert,
Like-
come on, man. You know we're trying to do a podcast. You're throwing 5 gift subs in here, dude. Thank you so
Lol.
much. Alert. Cut to it. I'm trying to be calm about it. I'm trying to like throw it in, slide it real easy. But you coming in here with 5 gifted subs?
Kek's niche is a flexibility as a carry, in my opinion. She's incredibly flexible and can run lots of different damage type teams, making her a very good like single carry to consolidate investment into. Because you can run overload teams, you can run electro charge teams, you can run mono electro teams, you can run physical teams, you can run cryo teams on Keqing. She's the most flexible top tier carry in the game, but she does not have the same potential in any of these comps as a Klee or a Diluc can achieve. And that's fine. She's incredibly flexible. With a new cryo set, Keqing can run a cryo charge attack setup with permafreeze. Like, she could run the 4-piece cryo set, run a Chongyun, run a Jingqiu, run a Jean, or run a Kaeya or a Diona or whatever, and run a permafreeze charge attack spam team.
Jinx. It's not Diluc, it's Dicklick. Get it right.
Dicklick, sorry.
Yeah,
and
Dicklick.
Yeah, Dicklick is going to simply always have a higher ceiling of damage than her, and that's fine.
Thank you for the prime.
And then also there's just the issue that Keqing has an amazing kit. Electro's just bad. Electro's not a very good element, unfortunately. But
They
especially with the
it's
EC
funny
changes.
because like they tried reworking it, but it honestly
just
made
made it
it
worse.
less consistent and harder to build
And
for.
worse. Yep. The rework on Electro Charge just made it objectively worse.
You know, at least when you knew that Electra was always gonna be the trigger. Well, okay, so I need EM on my trigger character. Okay, cool.
Like then you can forego Chong and replace him with Kaeya in that comp, and still run a permafreeze team that lets you charge spam on frozen targets, because frozen targets don't get knocked back by Keqing's charge spam, and run a physical team where she's doing just, high bursts of charge spam on frozen targets, then recovering stamina while cycling through your support cooldowns and shit like that. And it's very potent. And it's not going to be probably as strong as like a proper Cryo Kaeya team, but it's an option, and you already have investment in your Keqing. And then you can still run her as the Electro Queen setups, where you're running, Electro Charge setups or with Jingqiu, or you're running Mono Electro with her and C6 Fischl or Beidou and Venera units. And then you can also switch to a Pyro mixed damage team with Overload with Zhang Ling and Bennett on your team instead. Like, she has this flexibility none of the other units have, but her ceiling is simply lower because of it. And that's fine.
By the way,
that's fine. I like that niche for her.
A small advertisement break. If you're here and you haven't subbed and you like Noelle, in addition to the Noelle emotes we already have, this is the second batch that will be coming very soon. And we have a third batch coming on top of it. So, if you like Noelle, we got emotes. So,
like, it brings
small
up an interesting
advertisement
point to me.
right
Because when we looked at the we had that survey they did on the CN servers where the CN players were rating the power of the 5 stars. If I recall correctly, the order went Venti, Klee, Diluc, Mona, Child, or was it Child Mona? Then Keqing, Chi-Chi, and Zhongli. And people were thinking, oh man, Keqing's down here with Chi-Chi and Zhongli, who we've already discussed why they have objective weakness as 5 stars. It's like, oh man, Keqing's like on the same level. It's like, no guys, you don't understand. The difference between Keqing and these other units is like maybe a 10 to 20% ceiling difference. And the difference between Keqing and Chi-Chi and Zhongli is like 50, 60, 70% difference. It's just that you have to remember, CN server, the thing they care about most is ceiling. They don't care how skillful you have to play. They don't care how perfect your Mona rollouts have to be, how perfect your Klee animation cancels have to be. They only care about ceiling. That's what CN server players care about in tier lists, is who simply has the best ceiling. So, obviously Venti's number 1. Diluc and Klee are obviously up there because they're fucking ridiculous base damage on top of ridiculous reaction teams through vape and melts.
And
like
then
fucking
also
stat sticks that also get amping reactions.
and then also currently the hardest content in the game, which many people consider
Is
the
Pyro
only
focused.
hard content in the game.
Yeah, is Pyro focused Abyss 12? So like then who's after that? Who's after that? We have Jean. Jean is with a high investment team, and with Venti is in. Jean Venti is CN's favorite combo right now. That's where I learned it from. Was from CN speedrunners. Like Jean Venti is their favorite combo right now. So obviously Jean's gonna be up there as well. And then who else do we have? We have Mona and Child, who are the best one-shot units in the game. So when you're talking about ceiling, they're arguably better than Klee and Diluc because they're able to one-shot 12-3.
CN is the China server for those of you who do
China server.
Yes.
And then right below that is Kaching.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, if you look at everyone above them, it makes sense their ceiling is higher, but it's not that much higher than Kaching's. But that's the options we have. Yeah, so like Kaching is not that weak, guys, but she does have a weaker ceiling because she trades out flexibility for ceiling, and that's fine. That's her niche. Like that is her niche, is just is being a very flexible character to build comps around. So you can consolidate investments instead of having to build up a Kaeya for a Cryo comp, build up a Razor for a physical comp, build up a Diluc for an Overload comp, build up a Fischl for that Diluc for an Overload comp, all this kind of stuff, right? Like you just have your one Kaching, and she doesn't do any of these as well as the other characters, but she does them well enough, and she can flex into all of these with the right support units.
Real quick, just touching on, because we always get a comment about it. The reason why Venti and Jean are so good also good
together is because it enables Venti to be even stronger.
Right. It's basically because Jean has a low cooldown E. Animal MC can also kind of fill into this, but doesn't have the same
Jean
utility.
Also healer at the same time.
Right. Doesn't have the same utility that Jean can bring. So Jean is like objectively just better. But basically the low cooldown E from Jean, which has a dump truck of base damage, fuels and funnels all the energy into Venti so that he can ult off cooldown every single time. Venti is also reverse funneling into Jean so that she gets her ult, which is an 80 cost ult, and it's notoriously hard to get up, basically off cooldown as well. And they basically synergize really well with each other just by being two extremely powerful Animo units.
So it's kind of like how, you know how with like a Diluc Bennett team or something like that, or a Bennett Zhongli, like the reason you're running double Pyro is, yeah, the resonance is nice, but it's because like your Diluc doesn't have to build ER because the Bennett's funding him his ult, right? So Diluc can build pure damage and still ult off cooldown.
Right.
And like, you know, Zhongli has to build minimal ER. It depends on your comp and your energy management because she has really big energy issues. But like, you know, she doesn't. She can afford to run like an ER Sands and like a Dragon's Bane with Bennett because Bennett's funding her ult so well. It's the same thing that Jean is funding Venti's ults, because otherwise Venti has to either sacrifice uptime on his ults or sacrifice damage on his build. Like, yeah, you can make a Venti easily ult by himself off cooldown with a Favonius Bow, but Favonius Bow deals less than 60% the damage per ult that a stringless Venti does. Similarly, you can run attack or EM instead of energy recharge on Sands because Jean is just funding Venti, so he can build a pure damage builds and still ult every 12 seconds.
Right.
Because Jean is funding him.
Right.
Like, that's what makes it strong, is that Venti is enabled to run pure damage and still spam his ult as fast as possible.
And Sucrose doesn't do this because she just simply doesn't have enough energy output.
She's the worst energy generator out of the
even with
class.
Like a sac frag and a C1. It's
and replacing Venti with Sucrose doesn't work either because
then you have no damage.
Doesn't put out the stupid damage that Venti does. Nowhere close to it.
You just don't have the damage.
That being said, Sucrose Jean is a good combo together because it helps with Sucrose's energy issues because she has a lot of energy issues. 80 cost ults, you know, really low, really high cooldown E, everything. So it does help with her ult uptime, but it's just nowhere near the level Venti Jean achieves.
No,
the closest you can get is Venti Anemo MC, and even then it's still not as good because you don't consolidate a healer role in there as well.
Yeah. And with Jean and Venti, like, no one needs to run ER. They can either both run.
It depends. It depends. I still run ER on Jean in that case just because it means that I can funnel everything into Venti and she still ults off cooldown. She still can struggle to ult. She'll be ulting like every 25 to 30 seconds instead of 20 seconds without ER in her set because you're funneling everything into Venti, right? So
I don't know. I guess what do you consider more important then? Because we both agree, like, Jean's ult is not really that great at damage, and yes, it does heal and cleanse.
It's the cleanse.
It's just for the cleanse.
For 12, I run her with ER because I care about cleanse uptime.
Okay.
It's really the only thing.
Basically what I was saying is, like, I feel like the damage.
If condensed ice wasn't a thing, I would just ditch ER on Jean for more damage. But condensed ice is the thing, so cleanse uptime matters.
Mm-hmm.
For me at least. I'm not very good at like dodging without stamina sort of mechanics, so.
We need to talk about alternatives and not just best possible duo. Not everyone have Venti, so Sucrose works fine. No, Sucrose doesn't work with it. Like, you don't understand. This combo is to funnel into Venti.
Running Sucrose Jean instead of Venti Jean is... I haven't ever calculated it, but I would hazard a guess it's less than half the DPS output.
Yeah, you're
this
funneling
is specifically
Venti as
a
like
Venti
a pseudo
enabling
carry
combo.
It's almost like a pseudo
I get
carry.
that not everyone has this combination, so unfortunately it's not always relevant, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't still talk about it so those who do have access understand the power level of that, right? Mm-hmm. And why it's also important for us to state that Sucrose Jean is not a good alternative. It still works. It does let your Sucrose have more uptime, but by comparing it, we're talking about probably less than half the damage outputs from running that combo instead. And at that point, you might be better off not running double Anemo. You might just be better off running Sucrose with a reaction team, or Jean with a mono element team or something, instead of coupling them together, because it's not nearly as strong a synergy. It's not a replacement in the slightest.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like there's no point to run a Sucrose Jean in this kind of a comp. There's just no point. You would just be better suited to run a damage character with Jean as a support.
Yeah. Or Sucrose in like a melt rotation team or something.
Like Sucrose with Bennett for EM sharing, so he has better melts. Like
like a Bennett Chong like melt rotation team with Sucrose is just better, and stick Jean on the other team instead. Like we're discussing a specific synergy with two specific characters that is incredibly strong, and there aren't really alternatives. The closest one, again, is a Nemo MC in Venti, but she doesn't fund as well. Mm-hmm. Due to having to charge up her E to get the actual max particles out of it and whatnot.
Yeah,
so it's not nearly as good. So it's just like saying like, oh well, you know, what is an alternative to Klee Jingcho or Diluc Jingcho? There isn't one.
Here's another really stupid example that I'm about to give you. We're basically talking about you have a high-end sports car and then race fuel. Venti's the high-end sports car and Jean is the race fuel. And then you're talking about, okay, well, I should be able to get a good alternative with my Honda Civic and some race fuel. Like,
yeah,
no,
basically. That's a good analogy.
You're really not getting the same kind of anywhere close. It's not a good alternative.
Yeah, still, like, at the end of the day, it's just like how if there are strong alternatives, we'll mention it. Like, for example, Klee or Diluc with Jingcho, Barbara is not an alternative. Mona is not an alternative. Child is not an alternative. Those synergies only work with Jingcho. However, for freeze teams, if you don't have a Jingcho, you can run Barbara. In the comp we're going to be testing in 1.2, Kaeya, Chongyun, Jingcho, and Jean, right?
This is the...
You can run Barbara instead of Jingcho here because you don't need as much hydro application, so Barbara's enough.
This is something I'm working on. I've already recorded, and this is actually... I was just about to ask you if we want to move on to the Cryo expectations, because we've kind of talked about Zhongli, and now we're kind of off on a tangent about Venti G. Do we want to move into a more structured content about our expectations for Cryo, or do we...
I think we should save that for a different day, because this has already gone like over 2 hours long.
Well, I was gonna say we could even cut. I could put a stream marker right here, and we could like.
It's also I also need to eat, and I need to take my break. So like it's either we do this later tonight or we do this tomorrow.
I actually need to. I actually do need to run and do some stuff. I need to drop some stuff off returns for Amazon, and
I also don't know if I'll be up for a long, in-depth discussion tonight, because you know how I get when I'm out of caffeine and it's late in the day and stuff. So it might be better for us to just table that for tomorrow.
Okay. If we want to do it tomorrow, we can do that for tomorrow.
Yeah.
But basically, just the long and short of it, this is what I believe will be the premiere.
Oh shit, tomorrow's Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Oh Might have to do it Monday. I'm not sure then.
Okay.
I'm busy tomorrow, so.
This is what I believe will be the premier Cryo carry comp for 1.2. Kaeya is the main carry. Chongyun enabling him to have 100% Cryo uptime. Jean to Veneer, heal, cleanse, and then Jing Cho to make a permanent freeze comp with
Now, if you
no
are
shatter.
lacking Jean, a good cheaper alternative is Barbara plus
Well,
Anemo
I
and
was just
Seal
about to
Super.
swap over to
Yeah,
here.
sorry.
If you do not have these characters, you can get the exact same effective idea, granted a lot less damage,
Yeah,
with
but
Kaeya, Anemo MC, and Barbara, who are all free with Chongyun. You still need Chongyun. You cannot replace Chongyun with Chi-Chi or Diona.
what about Chong carry? He gets bad uptime because he kills freeze every time he hits a frozen
Every
target.
single time that Chong hits an enemy that is frozen, he will shatter
He
it.
shatters
He
them.
will lose 55% crit because
next
the
hit.
way that these abilities are worded and the way that they are activated is when an enemy is affected by cryo or are frozen. We'll go look at the elemental resistance. When an enemy is frozen or affected by cryo, you get the 15%. It's the same wording that's being
Yeah.
used in the new cryo set. He will then remove the cryo every time he shatters, then he will lose 15%. Now his next attack will apply it, but again, they aren't being frozen and they aren't being cryoed at that point, so they will not have the extra 15% attack. His combo is also the worst in the game for any Claymore user.
Mm-hmm.
And Kaeya's
So, like-
is also bad, but like, it's...
His Kai's isn't bad, it's average.
I guess it's
Yeah.
around the same level.
The point is, like, we're talking about like Chongyun having a slightly stronger combo, but only getting losing 55% crit every other hit. With a Kaeya ult active and re-cryoing and freezing, maybe we're talking like 30% downtime. But still, he's losing
Skip it,
55% crit chance, and the
210.
trade-off is a little bit of shatter damage. But he's losing 55% crit chance every other hit.
You
On the other
can't-
hand, Kaya's getting 55% crit chance on everything he ever does, and things don't move because they're permafrozen.
You don't want to replace Kaeya with Chi-Chi because Kaeya's ult is a dumpster truck of damage. Again, we talked about this
Kaeya
earlier.
is the damage dealer in this comp.
Right.
Like, he is the one doing the most damage. in
It's
this
like
comp.
it's what we were talking about, where like Chi-Chi doesn't provide anything other than healing. Well, Kaeya
Yeah, her
is
damage is
providing
low.
damage.
Her damage is low, her cryo uptime is low. Her energy gen is low. Like, Chi-Chi's gonna... In this... If you run Chi-Chi instead of Kaeya in this comp, between Chongyun and Chi-Chi and your other units, she's gonna ult like every 2 minutes. Because Chi-Chi can't generate her own ult without Constellation 1. She can't generate her own energy. And her ult is 80 cost. And on top of that, her ult doesn't do a lot of damage anyway.
And if we look at the cons, Kaeya with his C1 will have 100% or damn near it, 100% crit on a frozen target with the new cryo set and a black sword.
And Black Sword. Yeah. And that's no substats
That's
in your gear.
no substats. You could... I honestly think the play is, if you have it, a Black Cliff.
Yeah, probably.
Because
honestly.
even though it's the same amount of crit damage and crit chance, you could easily get 20% crit from substats.
You're gonna be you're gonna be overcapping with substats most likely.
You could
at this
easily
point,
get
so.
accidentally 20% crit off of substats, and then all that's left is to build pure crit damage. There is no longer a ratio. You could have 100% crit damage. It would be good because you have 100% crit chance. Then we look at his his C2. This increases the duration of his ult up to 15 seconds. This is actually mistranslated. It's implying that the thing needs to be killed by the ult. It just needs to be active, and it will get this bonus. So this works just
Anytime
for free.
something dies, just
Anytime something dies.
and ult is up. Yeah.
Obviously, his C3 is more damage on his E. He gets this really nice
Now-
shield, which is whatever.
Real quick to clarify about the C2 thing. This is, as far as we are aware, the only on-kill that works this way.
Right.
Because Gambler's 4-piece.
Yeah, Gambler doesn't work that way.
And Bloodstained Chivalry 4-piece requires the unit with that set to last hit an enemy to activate. So just to make sure people don't get confused by that, 4-piece Gamblers, 4-piece Bloodstained Chivalry require the unit with that set on to last hit. That's what makes them so scuffy. Because theoretically, there is nothing that can outdo the physical DPS output of a Kaching charge spammer with Bloodstained Chivalry active. But the hard part is getting it active, because if you have a Jingcho ult active, you have Kaeya ult
NVU
active,
mad.
you have official bird, they can last hit the enemy instead of Kaching, and you don't get the bonus.
NVU
So,
mad. Would I recommend buying C1 Chong or C1 Kaeya from the shop if you have the glitter? Yes, I would.
Yep,
100%.
100%.
And then if we look at, and then my God, you get C5 that's increasing his ult. I mean, these are some of the best upgrades. Honestly, these are like sleeper. They don't
think
change
people
the
don't
way that
realize
they
this.
work, but these are sleeper.
People don't realize this. Kaya's got one of the best DPS ults in the game.
Yeah, and then
Like,
his
even
C6,
without C2, it's like, it's not like best in the game, but it's up there.
Yeah.
Like his ult is, and with C, and if you get the max duration on C2, it is the single highest DPS ult in the game, base damage wise.
And then if we talk about his C6, and again, I know a lot of people are saying, well, C6, we're talking about constellations. It's easier to get a C6 unit than it is to get like a C6 4-star than it is to get like a C2 5-star.
Why is Kaya's ult so strong? I don't fucking know. I'll be honest, I was sleeping on Kaeya until about a month ago, because another theory crafter, Robin, changed his name to Kaeya Simp. And I was like, what's going on? Why are you a Kaeya Simp? Because like, this is a guy who calculates team DPSs and stuff. Like, he knows his math. He's not gonna simp on something that isn't strong. And he explained these things to me. I'm like, holy fucking shit. I never looked at Kaya's output as a burst support, but Jesus Christ. Why is a free unit 4-star allowed to have this?
And then, I'm sorry,
Like,
I just
to
need
be
to...
clear,
I need
his
to-
E, the thing that holds him back is kind of, his E isn't that much DPS, but his his E energy gen combined with his ult is, mwah.
Yeah.
He's
And then I just want to go into his fucking C6, which, aside from it being one of the strongest ults in the game, his C6 literally gives you an extra icicle, which I'm not sure that it will actually work this way out, but it's essentially a 33% increase in damage.
If it works out that way.
Assuming
But we don't know.
it doesn't slow it, like assuming
Which
it
is
maintains the
possible.
same rotation speed, it would probably be like a 33% increase in damage. And I am so excited for him to be on banner because I want to test this. I want to test
C6
this
banner for me.
I will absolutely test
I'm not
the
gonna
C6
pull for
banner.
him specifically.
I will absolutely do it. If Albedo has Kaeya, I will roll until I get a C6. I don't care. I want this because I want to know. I'm not clapping. I'm
And then
doing it with my mouse.
on top
I
of
want
that-
to know.
Kaya's the best cryo reaction enabler in the entire game, next to Chongyun, specifically in like the comps that Chongyun works, like the one we're talking about and the Bennett melts. Those are really the only two, and I guess Kaching cryo as well. Chongyun's required, but like he's the best. Like if you alter your dilute combo a bit, you can melt a lot of your hits in your combo and always melt your ult with a Kaeya ult active. Kaeya's ult enables you can reverse melt Kaeya's ults with Diluc or Klee, because his ult again does a lot of damage, so reverse melting it is still good. He enables you to run freeze comps, he enables you to run shatter comps, he is the best superconduct enabler in the entire game. Like, Kaeya is a fucking sleeper character, and I honestly overlooked him for so long because he's free, and I just didn't bother looking at the free
And
units.
also, you hate Kaeya's English voice with a passion.
And I fucking hate him. Like, guys, you gotta understand, I'm not a Kaeya simp. I'm not a Klee simp.
No.
They are my two least favorite characters in this entire fucking game. But I put aside my feelings on them and talk about their objective strength as characters numerically because I want to give you guys good information. But I fucking hate Kaeya and Klee. I hate their English voiceovers.
He's so pretty.
And he fucking knows it. And he's a cocky, smarmy fucking little bitch.
Hey man, cool it.
And here's the thing, I love puns, but when he says them, it grates me.
Okay, you couldn't see my game, but literally when I said cool it, he started his coin flip animation. It was perfect.
I fucking hate this boy. I fucking hate Klee's goddamn baby talking. I can learn her mechanics. I don't mind learning animation cancel mechanics. I find it fun, but I couldn't learn how to play Klee because it was too distracting, her fucking baby talking. I hate these two characters, but objectively they're both strong.
Lord Vin's, okay, for as far as like Zhongli being worth it to pull since he's getting buffed, we can't be 100% certain that these buffs are going to be what he ships with if he gets changed. If they decide, you know what, Never mind.
And
He's fine.
as I said, reading these buffs, I don't think they're enough still. So if this is what he does ship with, I still don't think he's worth pulling
You
for.
have to honestly sit there and really... You have to ask yourself, are you willing to take a chance that he will be changed in a way that is positive for the team comps that you need in 1.3? And because that's another thing. He's being changed in 1.3. That is
Albedo will be
over a
out by
month.
then.
It's over a month away from now. Who knows what kind of team comps you'll be running? Maybe there's another character that's going to come out that you're just like, no, you know what? I want to run this character. Doesn't matter. Like, do you want to risk it that he still even functions for your teams in 6 weeks? I don't know.
Yeah, plus who knows? 1.3 might be when Zhao finally comes out. And if Zhao still retains like the ults or the mechanics that he had in beta, and
You'd like to say that they can
like
put the
if
changes
Zhao-
on the 1.3 beta and then throw it into live before it comes. Okay, well, okay, that's true. Okay.
Yeah, true.
I guess I just
But
assumed
the
it would
point
be
is,
coming out with 1.3.
regardless, like if Zhao, and this is like purely theoretical, right? Because we have basically no information about Zhao. At best, we understand what beta testers have been allowed to talk about.
Right.
About Zhao. So like, if he retains the similar mechanic or design he has, he should be, if the numbers are balanced correctly, the best DPS in the entire game, because he's supposed to have a health drain mechanic in exchange.
Which
for
is fair though, because obviously
which
he has
is
a huge...
and that's and so
it's
that's
not
what
like
I'm saying. Like,
Diluc,
if he
who's the
balances
best...
numbers right, DPS, and what's his trade-off?
What's his
I don't know.
trade-off? I don't know.
He do big damage. What's Klee's trade-off? Well, you have to learn these animation cancel mechanics, and she's like really squishy, but she's also really mobile if you learn her animation cancels properly. She's really mechanically intensive. Okay, cool. What's the Luke's trade-off? I don't know. Unga bunga, M1E, 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 M1EQ. Hey, look, thing dead. Like, what's the Luke trade-off? He doesn't have one.
Yeah, actually,
But, like,
Jano
Zhao
said Zhao and Jean. That's actually why I'm super excited to have a Jean, is because I'm hoping that Jean and Zhao work together in such a way.
Because if she does the same thing with Venti where she's funding his ults, and he might need that, like, whew.
God, yeah. No, I'm pretty excited. Like, that's why I'm not even worried about Zhongli, because, like, okay, so maybe he will be better in however months' time, but I guarantee you, like, if Zhao and Jean work together, I don't give a fuck.
But yeah, I'll be honest, I think they are going to be heavily reworking his kit, because otherwise I feel like he would have come out sooner than he has. Because, like, he was in, like, the original, like, 1.0 betas. So, like, I think they're reworking his kit, but the point is, if they retain his design concepts, which
the
is,
other conspiracy.
which is, true. But yeah, regardless, if they retain his design concept where he is supposed to be this glass cannon, hurts himself or takes more damage or whatever, like, is hurting himself to increase his damage, he should be the highest DPS character in the game because of that trade-off, if they retain that design concept. And that's fine, because it's a trade-off.
Guys, I do want to say about, like, this Kaeya comp, it's pretty much reliant on the new Cryo set. So for those of you who are asking to try to run it now, I run it now just to practice the rotations and kind of, like, show it as a proof of concept. It doesn't do a lot of damage at this moment, but with the new Cryo set, it will be exceptionally better. You are going to want to run 4-piece Cryo set on Kaeya with either a black sword or a black cliff if you have it.
55% extra crit between resonance and set bonus on everything, and 15% cryo damage.
And he will have, and then he'll have 100% cryo uptime to get it, is 100% use on his cryo cup and the cryo damage from the set. We're talking.
Imagine Kaeya had 2 plus 16 crit helmets on right now. That's like the level of buff we're talking. Like 2 extra on top of what he's already running. Like, whoo.
Why a black cliff sword? Because it is totally possible to have 100% crit with the 75% crit you're gonna get between his C1, the set, and his base.
70%, but yeah.
No, 75 because
5%
crit.
5% starting.
Right,
You're right. I'm
crit.
sorry. Yeah, I was thinking of bonus. Sorry,
So it's totally possible to get 25% crit chance on subsets. Most of my sets run upwards of 30 to 40 just off of pure crit sub rolls.
Now you are lucky as fuck.
Well, yeah.
Luck, but point is it's possible. Yeah. Point is like, and even at that point, it's better to invest into damage over crit chance at that point because you're starting with 75% out of 100.
Yeah. So like even if you weren't capped, even if you somehow never got capped, your ratio you want a minimum of 100 and fucking 50. I was gonna say 60, but that's 80.
Yeah, you want a 1 to 2 ratio.
You want to try to get a 1 to 2 ratio.
So yeah.
Black Sword's just gonna be better in general, anyways. But if you want 100% crit, you can run Black Sword and then just only roll for crit damage. Crit damage helm 100%. Either way, I think. Yeah, I would say either way, crit damage helm. No reason to run a crit damage.
Next month, Black Cliff will hopefully be back in the shop, so everyone's gonna be running Black Cliff on Kaeya.
Yesterday, Tuner's streamer luck puts Tuner's streamer luck into doubt. I rolled up to 80 pity and didn't get a character that I wanted.
Steel Meets Club, that is including the base 50%.
I also got this flower, which I think is absolutely functionally useless for me, but you guys seem to like it. So I don't know.
Well, it doesn't fit any of your characters right now, but it is a very good role. It's just the only characters you're running Glads on is Noelle, and that's not good for Noelle because you want your ER. But
yeah,
it is a very good flower, and in the future, if you're running a different Glads unit, that will be very good on them. Especially because like you don't even have to run 4-piece Glads, right? A lot of units like to run like 2-piece elemental bonus, 2-piece Glads just for raw stat increase.
Why would you not recognize that as a good flower? Because the only character that I use that uses Glads right now is Noelle, and this 16% ER is better than anything on that.
Yep. For you specifically. For Noelle specifically. Yeah. Because you care about, because Noelle wants to have a lot of ER, so. Oh, thanks, Automata. Alright, it's 6 o'clock. I gotta eat and hop off.
Yeah. I think we should just end. I'll try to come back tonight.
Is it viable to run Kaeya without a true healer? Yes. That's actually a thing I've mentioned before, just real quick to answer this last highlighted message.
Sure.
There are theoretically teams that don't run healers that run like Jingcho as the quote-unquote solo healer, but those are basically teams that are telling you to get good.
Oh yeah.
Because like you have to dodge well enough that Jingcho's minor healing is enough for you. However, this is the first time that running Jingcho as solo healer sounds a lot more viable, generally speaking, because shit's permafrozen, right? If you're playing right, things don't move. Yeah. So like,
as we've shown several times, I can take off. If I do it right and I actually think about it and don't unga bunga too hard, I can go to the 4 ruin guards and they will all be permanently CC'd while I just smack them around.
Yep. There's also just the reality that the better you get and the better your team comps are, the more you hit stun chain things anyway. Like you've seen, like we did a stream once where I was clearing Abyss 12 while streaming it to Tuner and you guys, and like Tuner was commenting while muted, and like there were times where I could get a Fatui to be hit stun changed for 15 to 20 seconds, right? Like they can never attack, they can never reshield for 15 to 20 seconds because of really clean microplay.
Yeah. And
like the better you get at the game, the more often that happens. So like,
God, what was the
you don't necessarily have to have as much healing because of that. Low healing requirements isn't just how good you are at dodging; it's how good you are at stagger chaining enemies.
I can't figure out where it is. I'm sure it was in here somewhere. Oh yeah, here we go. Keep an enemy frozen for over 10 seconds 10 times. I got that. I've done that 13 times apparently. So yeah, I've had a freeze for over 10 seconds 13 times.
Yep.
Hi Grandma. Grandma's watching right now. There's currently more people watching me than that exist in the town that she lives in.
Heck. All right. Anyway, I'm hopping off for a bit. I gotta go eat.
And we'll hear real quick before we go. Guys, we appreciate you so much. Thank you for coming out.
Yeah.
I will be back tonight to do my daily stuff because obviously we didn't play the game today, so I will be back tonight sometime. I can't really tell you when it is, but drop a follow. You'll be notified when I go live. If you haven't followed already, we would appreciate it. I do go live every day, and supporting the Twitch channel is just as important as supporting the YouTube. We share revenue here, so if you have a Prime that you want to use, or if you want to throw a sub, if you really like Noelle emotes, we're the place for that. Jinx does come and talk with me very often, and I'm starting to get up there as far as my general base knowledge in the game, I would say. So,
But yeah, like that actually reminds me of a funny comment we had on one of the podcast style things earlier. Like one of the other podcast style videos we put out, where someone was like, I think you mentioned it to me, that someone was like, "Man, it sounds like Tuner has half the knowledge in this game of that Jinx has." Like, yeah, he does, because he started a month late. I'm trying to catch him up on the knowledge.
I started a month and a half late because I was moving halfway across the country.
Yeah, I was like, I'm like, yeah, he does have this knowledge. That's why I'm trying to teach him this stuff, because he's behind.
Yeah, and that's what we've been saying that a lot on the channel. We've been saying, you know, if you come over here because Jinx is teaching me live, and what better way to learn how to play the game than listening to Jinx teach me live about a game? So.
Yeah.
Brain Damaged Ape and Coogies, thank you for gifting 5 subs. Congratulations, Czar Nikolai, Dinner, and Blanc, Floofy Puppy, Cola Burpee, Grav Bike. And remember, if you weren't following, you didn't have a chance to get a free sub. But
Keck.
Appreciate you guys. We're gonna cut this and send it to the YouTube channel.
Quick little thing I want to mention. I find it funny. We have almost as many viewers right now as Seagull does, because he's one of the few Twitch channels I follow.
Okay. All right, guys. Yeah, we're going to cut this and we'll put it up to the YouTube. So if you missed the beginning of it, that will be there for you to peruse and watch at 2 times speed, because obviously a 3-hour podcast is really fucking long.